Day number 29 in this 5th month of May. It's a Monday. This is how we kickstart the week with you right here on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akako. Of course, I do this as always with Bernice Abubedu-Ladza. We love you and we're grateful that you've taken the time to join us, not just today, but in the course of the week. Now, here's what we have lined up for you this morning. First, the news will come up in just a bit. And right after that, well, we're joined by energy analyst Kojo Poku. He is our guest as we delve into the newspapers. Of course, we'll be bringing you our daily weekday dose of sports as well. But today, in terms of our big stories, we'll be hosting the king himself, Kwesi Dakwa, KKD for short. Now, we're going to be having a conversation with him on a number of matters, including how President Akufo-Addo has fared so far in terms of handling the affairs of the state. Has he lived up to expectation or not? What do you think? Well, we'll be hearing from the king on the show. But also coming up this morning on the show, we'll be hosting officials from the Nuclear Power Institute of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. It brings back memories, doesn't it? All the way back to the 60s, to Kwame Nkrumah and what he started and the trajectory. Well, this morning we'll be hosting them to tell us a bit more about their collaboration with Japan, one of the world leaders as far as that is concerned. We'll bring you details of that. Also on the show, we'll be telling you about the Ghana Revenue Authority's upfront payment by VAT registrable persons on imported taxable goods, including vehicles at all ports of entry. If you're one of those who bring vehicles and other such items into the country, you want to stay and listen to that conversation. But also, we'll let you in on how Action Aid is looking forward to a just, fair, and sustainable world in which everybody enjoys the right to a life of dignity and freedom from poverty and oppression. And I know definitely these are subject areas that all of us are concerned about, especially when you look at economic freedom in our part of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ghanaians, this is what we have lined up for you this morning. Do stay with us. Up next, the news. Thank you for staying for the AM News. Let's start from the Obuasi Municipal Education Directorate, which has been recording high absenteeism among girls during the period of menstruation. Now, the number continues to surge due to the rise in cost of sanitary pads. Municipal Education Director George Alfred Kumson says the challenge puts girls in a disadvantageous position. Nanaya Ojima has more in the following report.
In Ghana, sanitary pads are subject to 20% luxury tax and 12.5% in value-added tax. This has contributed to hike in prices of sanitary pads, making it inaccessible for girls from poor homes. For this reason, most female students in their menses are forced to absent themselves from school, negatively affecting their studies. George Alfred Kumson is Obuasi Municipal Education Director.
It is not all the girls who have money to buy pads when they menstruate, and some of them resort to using unclean materials during their menstruation. And some girls, when they menstruate, because they don't have the pads, some of them take excuses to go home. Others feel shy and they are not able to say, so they saw themselves in school.
To deal with the challenge, the Rotary Club of Obuasi has established a pad bank. This is in partnership with other non-governmental organizations, including the Self-Love Foundation, Girls Shall Grow, and Gold City Mummies. A member of the Rotary Club, Delphine Boglovo, believes establishing a pad bank where philanthropists can regularly donate will ensure sustainable supply of sanitary pads.
When we do the one time off, some of the girls we give them, they don't really need it because their parents can't afford it. But we have girls who are really in need and cannot afford a sanitary pad. So the pad bank has been established and launched today. Now the girl child coordinators in the various schools in Obuasi and its surrounding will identify these needy students and then will come and withdraw pads from the pad bank periodically.
The executive director of Girls Shall Grow, Louisa Amwa, called on government to intervene in making sanitary pads accessible to girls, especially those from deprived communities. She said it is unacceptable to have girls skip school during menstruation.
We believe that the government can come in to support by taking taxes off the sanitary pads. At least once the taxes have been taken off, it's going to come at a lower cost for them to be able to afford.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima.
Next story, the Central Regional Branch of the NDC is cautioning the governing NPP not to indulge in vote buying in the upcoming Assen North by-election. Central Regional Chairman of the NDC, Richard Kofi Asiedu, says the people of Assen North cannot be starved of development for 2 years only to be splashed with money during the time of voting.
Revolution has a long way to go, but has come to stay. The Central Region Executive will not be intimidated by the act of the MPP. We all saw what happened at Kumewu. I was there myself, and I realized what was going on was unwholesome. It was not holy at all. Blatant sharing of money, openly. In fact, I was worried because I was a polling agent at one of the polling stations. I was forced to abandon the place because it was not what Ghana should be by now. We are not in monocracy. And if they are saying they are extending same to the Central Region, then we are sorry for them. We will not allow anybody to share money openly. That way it will not happen. So if you have money to share, better share it before the day. Else, we will not allow, because it is against the electoral laws of this country, to influence somebody with money. And if they have their men to also challenge us, we are telling them that we also have men. And for Central Region, for the first time, we have one of the most youngest region executives who are ready to defend our rights in every manner. And so therefore, if they think they are coming to have their way, like what happened at Kumewu, then they are joking. The Central Region person can analyze issues very well before voting. So if they are influencing them with money, we are going to influence their conscience with wisdom, words of wisdom. That will let them know that they have to vote for continuity of development. Now, MPP doesn't think about development anymore. Our MP has been in Parliament closely 2.5 years. And up to now, he has been paid his common fund, MP's common fund. We in the NDC believes that they have accumulated this common fund and are going to use it to influence voters. So we want to tell noble delegates, sensible, and people who are with wisdom in Assen North that when such hooligans brings money, they should take it and vote against them.
Now, the Ghana Library Authority has trained young people in the Bono East region on the concept of entrepreneurship, the role of entrepreneurs in national economic development, business plan development, and financial management. The head of corporate affairs, Angela Osei-Jan, says this will encourage the youth to set up their own businesses to reduce unemployment. And Asabit has more.
The Entrepreneurship Reimagined program, organized by the Ghana Library Authority and supported by UNICEF and the Youth Employment Agency, seeks to support self-employment and self-scale entrepreneurship, as well as create and improve alternatives to wage employment. Speaking at the Bono East Regional event held at the Techiman Municipal Library, Head of Corporate Affairs at the Ghana Library Authority, Angela Osei-Jan, says the move will help provide the relevant resources to overcome the entrepreneurial knowledge gap.
As a dynamic institution like Ghana Library Authority, we are trying to solve community problems such as unemployment and underemployment. And so we are making this
knowledge available to people who want to start their business or who want to have an extra source of income, so that they can also get the knowledge and put it to use to benefit others and also take the weight of government. So we make these opportunities available for graduates, for students who are in the universities to also have a motivation to also set up their business and employ their colleagues.
Regional Director of the Ghana Library Authority, Mrs. Charlotte Nsinya Tebiri, expressed satisfaction with the program and appealed for more of such engagements, adding that more needs to be done to help the youth create their own businesses.
As one of our resource persons said, most of the youth complete school and they're all looking for white-collar job. And this time we have come to realize that we cannot all get a white-collar job. The government cannot create employment for all of us. So there's the need for us to have our own businesses. How do we start our own business? How do we register our own businesses? And that is the essence of the entrepreneurship reimagine that we have today. I'm very excited, and I hope we could get more sponsors to organize more of these programs. They are excited, and the interaction, people are asking questions. They are happy, they want to know more. What is it that somebody have to do to enter into business? Because we are all in, even those of us in a white-collar job, we still want to do something extra because we want to make it. So I'm very excited, and I hope that I'll use this opportunity to appeal for more sponsors, that our youth need to be educated more. As we want to talk about entrepreneurship, or create your own job or own your own business, there's more to it, to education and information.
Some of the participants lauded the organizers of the event and asked that the forum has provided them the opportunity to create their own businesses.
This program has really been informative in such a sense that some of us came with business idea, others had no business idea. But after this workshop, we've realized that when you have a business or business idea, there's a need for you to register the business. And the process to go about it, they've already informed us about that. And in addition to that, we have contact of other stakeholders that we can communicate with, so that in case of any challenges, we can go to them and they are willing to address the issues to us. So after this program, I'm sure that going out there, we are going to practicalize what you've done or what you've learned. And I can assure you that in the next 5 years, you have strong entrepreneurs.
My name is Asari Sandra, and this program is really educative and very informative, and it has really helped me a lot because I plan on doing a small business, starting a salon. So with this training and the kind of education given to us, it has really helped me a lot.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
Let's head now to the northern region, where the regional minister, Shani Alhassan Shaibu, has indicated that the Social Cohesion Project, also known as SOCO, is a major game changer expected to drive the development of the northern regions of Ghana. He says projects under the scheme will bring development to beneficiary communities. Mr. Shaibu spoke at the opening ceremony of the Gulf of Guinea Northern Region's Social Cohesion Project Financial Management Training Workshop for relevant RCCs and MMDAs in Tamale.
The SOCO project is a $450 million World Bank support project expected to be implemented in Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, and Ghana. The government of Ghana's allocation is a total of $150 million credit facility. The project will support the northern parts of the Gulf of Guinea countries that have been affected by food insecurity, climate change, conflict, and violence. The Northern Regional Minister, Shani Alhassan Shaibu, said the development projects would include roads, chipped compounds, schools, markets, among others.
As you are aware, the project is expected to financial investment in some projects types like feeder roads, small air dams, boreholes, and social infrastructure such as markets, schools, complements of furniture, chips compounds, pharmacies, which impact directly on improving the lives of our people. Other investment areas are in ICT centers, recreational facilities such as AstroTurf and parks, innovation centers which are particularly targeted and the restive and vulnerable youth in these districts who are prime target of extremist ideas across the borders.
The Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, Dan Kweku, on his part, said the project should not just be on paper, but there should be a reflection on the ground.
I'm sure many of you have said this. And that's what the minister was saying, that we are going to do this year and then continue next year with double this number of projects. So when we say that Soko is a game changer, truly it is. But it's not going to be a game changer on paper. If our attitude towards its implementation is not what is expected of us, you will get it. And that's due to write a project where your thesis for masters or doctorate. Analyze the intervention of all such projects in the past 30-40 years and its impact in Northern Ghana. And come out with a conclusion. Either we are not being sincere to the people who claim to serve, or many people let these projects and just pocketed their monies. Other than that, with all these interventions, is that what we see in the northern part of Ghana? And that is why, as the minister said, we will not let Soko suffer that same thing. We will not let it be.
He said, on the average, the assemblies are expected to receive $400,000 US.
You don't say social cohesion. And that is what I want you to have in mind. That is addressing a certain threat of fragilities, violence, and conflict, and the spillover of it from the Sahel. On the average, you are getting about $400,000 produce this year. The more or the better news is that based on how we perform, we are likely to get an equivalent of almost $1 million.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has eulogized former Inspector General of Police Peter Nanfuri, stating that he contributed immensely to peace and securing the country during his reign. He says Ghana owes him the recognition for the great work that he did. Interior Minister Ambrose Derry made the speech on behalf of President Akufo-Addo at Drapa, where the former IGP was laid to rest. Here's Rafiq Salam's report.
Jiriba has paused to say goodbye to his illustrious son and Inspector General of the Ghana Police Service from a more courteous time in a rare moment of national unity. His honor guards escorted former Inspector General of the Ghana Police Service Peter Nanfuri as he departed for the final time in Nairobi Park, where he was ensconced as the paramount chief of Jiriba 16 years ago, with his casket draped in Ghana Police Service colors. The body of the fourth chief of Jiriba for 3 days had lied in repose at the park, with locals passing by to pay their last respect. It was a sequel to the burial mass held at the forecourt of the State House in Accra on Wednesday. The choreographed spectacle of a state funeral served up for a rich life encompassing the highest levels of Ghana's public service, a life that ended only 3 months ago. Arguably, there have never been such an event of such importance in the region, where invitations have been accepted with such alacrity since the funerals of Cardinal Richard Kunye Bawop at the start of the year and Emma Sarah Chinewole, mother of Supreme Court Judge Justice Yoni Kulendi, in 2020. Mind you, Sir Peter Nanfuri was a teacher, lawyer, director of the Bureau of National Investigations, BNI, now NIB, Inspector General of the Ghana Police Service, and Paramount Chief. The list of invitations, therefore, varies all fabrics of the society that he lived and worked with. DCOP retired Augustine Janine worked as aide-de-camp and executive secretary to him when he was at the BNI and IGP respectively. Though he hails from the Asante region, but upon retirement, is based in Accra, traveled over 800 kilometers to Jiruba to see the final resting place of his former boss.
The relationship of such that he became like a father and his son. So wherever he goes, everybody says, "You are father, you are father, you are father, you are father." So even when the unfortunate thing happened, I was the first person they called. So there was no way I would stay in Accra or Kumasi without coming to see him off. Because I'm like a son, and all his children call me uncle.
On the front row and at the VIP days, his Minister for Interior, Ambrose, representing President Akufo-Addo, sandwiched by Upper Soldier Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali and IGP Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, former IGP Mohammed Al-Hassan, and wife of Speaker of Parliament Alice Ayonas Babin sat at the extreme ends of the row. Members of the opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, whose reign he became IGP, were also present and led by the party's campaign manager of the 2020 elections, Professor Joshua Alabi, and the country's longest-serving defense minister, Alhaji Idrisu Mahama. The main celebrant of the burial mass was a peer and a schoolmate of the former IGP, Bishop Emeritus Dr. Paul Memele. Ambrose Derry then delivered the speech of the president, lacing it with his personal account of the late IGP, urging the youth to emulate his exemplary life.
Sir Peter Nanfuri, former IGP, who before then was the director of BNI, contributed immensely to the peace and security at the time he held office, and that Ghana owes him the recognition for the great work that he did, and that his name in the history of Ghana will be written in gold.
It however turned emotional when the casket was to be closed. Close family members, especially his sons and daughters, wept uncontrollable and unknowingly even formed a blockade.
Well, to cap off the news, to Joy Prime's Cues and Lyrics we go. Udiana became the third contestant to drop the microphone, exiting the competition after 7 weeks. The remaining contestants took turns to deliver inspirational songs in a bid to escape eviction. Here are excerpts.
For your mercy never fails me.
Thank you. You're a very good performer.
Oh, how you feel about what you provide inside that home.
I have a problem with your low notes.
Together we are going to brand new.
There was a little bit of a struggle in when you were hitting your highs.
You still have to go back there and work.
Pray for me.
You're the best I've seen so far. Sounded like doom so.
Give me that they go see we oh. They go follow on them go. Who's up? For countryside.
I'm disappointed.
Strength and hope, how them say you be my strength and hope.
Have you ever met Stoneboy yet?
Not yet.
I guess you have to meet him.
Cues and lyrics. Bring on the music.
Well, you should catch that Cues and Lyrics on Joy Prime. That's how we cap off the news. But stay with us. Up next, energy analyst Kojo Poku joins us for the news review. Well, thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to engage our guest for the newspaper review. He is none other than energy analyst, also a flag bearer aspirant, a hopeful for the New Patriotic Party. Kojo Poku is our guest. Mr. Poku, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I've been okay. The usual wahala we all face, but I'm fine.
Wahala? Which wahala? You don't get wahala.
Me, I don't get wahala. Who for this life no get wahala? But now I know has wahala. Elon Musk has wahala. The Pope has wahala. So everybody has wahala.
Ben, because of me, your show is one of the most watched shows in the week because of me. All KMP family watches you from Damango to Waliwali to Tamale to Boko. And I want to take this opportunity to wish them good morning. And I'm happy that I met them last week and we had a very beautiful meeting. But everybody spoke that, Ben is a good host and we always watch you on this show.
Well, thanks for the compliments. The end, is it in Safwa?
In Safwa, yes.
In Safwa.
Keys.
Like Keys. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So,
in Safwa.
Kojo in Safwa Poku.
Yes.
Tell me, I know it's a given name. It's interesting, our nomenclature, our naming structures in the country in different languages. But how did it brings to mind names like Diewo, Wasimeu, Freddie, Wasimeu Blay, Diewo, Prekon, and others. What explanation is there to this name in Safwa?
In Safwa, it's a family name. It's not a given name. Only a few people are called in Safwa. 9 out of 10, if somebody is called in Safwa, he's from a lineage that I can associate to. My grandfather, who was Poku Transport, is called Francis Kojo Safwa Poku. And he made sure that he gave me his full name. So my full name is Francis Kojo Safwa Poku.
I see.
So mostly, the firstborn son in my family is called Kojo Safwa. All firstborn sons in my family are called Kojo Safwa. I was not born on Monday.
I see. Interesting point. Let me just let all of you know that this segment, the news review, is brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they still are offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Make tracks to them. Here's where you can locate them. Spintex here in Accra, opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22. There's Techiman Hanswa and Siyama and Zama. If you'd like to call them, these are the numbers to reach out to them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But of course, just the start of my engagement with Kojo Poku. So, especially as you are a flag bearer hopeful of the MPP, right before we segue into the newspapers, I'd like to find out from you. I'm sure yesterday you listened to Mr. President, the 29th address on the back of COVID-19, declaring that now we're so to speak out of the woods, but it has consequences that are going to reverberate through our history, part of which include going to the IMF and all of that. How did you feel about his speech, especially when it talks about the economy and how he didn't want to go to the IMF, but he was constrained? And maybe just to tie into that, yes, it wasn't yesterday, it was a few days ago. I was in Usu and I just shared this. This is what I posted on Facebook. I went past this Chinese duo in Osu, a male and a female. I'm supposing they are a couple. And could you guess what they were doing?
You tell me.
They were staking lotto. And when I put it there, people were responding, Kroma Eshi and all kinds of things. But anyway, your quick reactions on Mr. President.
Well, you see, one of the things that I think he should have mentioned is that COVID is still with us. Every now and then it spikes. I think a couple of months ago, it spikes in the system. People were not feeling unwell. My advice, and I think what he should have added, was that now we normally test for malaria and typhoid. I think what we should do is that people should now make testing for COVID part of the things that they test for when they are not unwell. People are normally feeling unwell and they think that, COVID is not here anymore. Because we've gotten the immunization, it has now metaphored into similar to malaria and maybe sometimes typhoid. So what I would have expected him to add is to let the Ghanaians be aware that now, if you are not unwell, please make sure that you still go and test for COVID-19, because the virus is still here and most people are still getting unwell because of the virus. Now, back to the economy. Look, sometimes it hurts me to say this, but the financial advisors to the president, I don't think they are briefing him on what is ahead of us. Because the president have made two statements. One, he said, we will return to the financial market very soon.
Right.
With the statement yesterday, it tells me that the Ministry of Finance and his financial advisors are not painting the right picture. We are not going to return to the financial market very soon. And to get investor confidence in Ghana, it's not the IMF program that is going to give investor confidence. No, it is what the government does that will give investor confidence. Because the IMF is only here for a short period to make sure the government does certain things.
Are you suggesting the president has been misled once again?
I wouldn't use the word misled, but maybe they are not really telling him the real situation. Being misled is two different things, and not telling him the real situation and what is required to get out of the woods is two different things. I wouldn't want to use the word misled, but I don't think they are painting the right picture to him. Because look, finance is not his strong suit. He's a lawyer. So I don't blame him. I expect the financial gurus around him to be able to explain to him the situation that we have.
Okay.
Historically, Ghana has never defaulted on their debt. Now, when you default on your debt, you don't just return back into the financial market very soon. There have dire consequences for defaulting on your debt. So, look, let's not make it look like, we're going through IMF, and after IMF, we'll go back to the financial market. No, it's not true.
All right. There are renewed calls for Ken Ofori-Atta to leave the position of finance minister. I'm sure you've heard. What do you make of that, briefly?
Well, I mean, I've said that, look, him being there, he's a buzzer. He's no longer a finance minister. Because at the end of the day,
he's no longer a finance minister. What is he?
He's a buzzer.
He's a buzzer.
A buzzer. You know what a buzzer is?
No. I remember from secondary school and all of that. Why would you call him that? He still bears the title finance minister of the Republic of Ghana.
No, but I'm saying that he's a buzzer because every decision that he's going to have to make is being made for him by the IMF. So there is nothing that he's there to do. There's no decision that he can make that is not being made for him by the IMF. Look, let me give you an example. The 2024 budget, which will be read in November, right? I know exactly what's going to be in those budgets because of the IMF document that was put out.
But Kojo, in previous stints with the IMF, whether it's Tekpe or whichever other person, we've still had people at post. Were they buzzers too?
Yes, they were buzzers. Anytime you are in IMF, the finance minister is a buzzer. Because what are you doing? You are only making sure that you are implementing what the IMF have told you to implement, collect the money and put it in the bank, stop this, don't do this, cap this. That's what you're doing. You're a buzzer.
You know, you're pushing me to ask this question. I really want to get into the papers, but very briefly. Over the weekend on Newsfile with Samson Ladi Anyenini, Kwame Pianim, respected economist and all of that, said something. He said that on the issue of ex gratia or emoluments, benefits, if you're a president and you lead the country to the IMF, you shouldn't get any such emoluments. That should be your sort of punishment. Do you agree with him?
No, I don't. That's a bit extreme.
Every 6 years, practically every 6 years, we go to the IMF. Why is that extreme?
Yes, I know. But then, you see, the point about the finance minister is that if I were him, I would leave. Because, look, everybody's asking you to leave. You said you wanted to do a couple of things. You've done the issue of the IMF. You finished it. You read the budget and all that. Let's go.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what he's there. I don't know what he's there for. But
all right.
The point about ex gratia for people who so-called look, the president, I don't think has failed. I've always said that Donaldo has done 75% in my books. So I don't think he's done absolutely zero.
All right. Let's get into the papers now. And interesting, I'm not speaking for the Daily Graphic, but they are saying that cover price is going up with effect from Thursday, the 1st of June. It will no longer be 4 cedis, it will be 5 cedis. In TBBA, How about your pocket? You out there watching us this morning, is your pocket also moving forward? Well, like COVID, we will succeed. President rallies nation for economic revival. Virtual InfoSec builds Bank of Ghana's Cybersecurity Center. There is non-VAT registered importers to pay 12.5% upfront, and that has become a thorny issue. There's also power of contempt necessary for justice delivery. That's according to the CJ nominee. When I read the story, in case I forget, lest I do, I'd like you to respond to maybe two things, one or two. One, what do you think about her delineation between citizenship and identity and all of that? And what do you think about her delivery? When I read that story, I would like you to add that. Her stance on citizenship, as she explained it, and how you feel she performed before the vetting committee of Parliament. But in that first story, President Akufo-Addo has stated that just as the sacrifices and support of Ghanaians during the COVID-19 pandemic led to its successful management, a similar attitude backing the country will help it overcome the current economic challenges. He said the $3 billion negotiated deal with the International Monetary Fund to be received in the next 36 months, out of which $600 million had already hit the country's account, would lead to the restoration of confidence and the reopening of avenues that had been closed for the past 1.5 years. Let's quickly go to those stories on page 13, and then I'll let you come in and respond. So the Ghana Revenue Authority will start the imposition of an upfront 12.5% VAT, that is value-added tax, on the customs value of taxable goods at all ports of entry with effect from Tuesday, June the 6th this year. It is applicable to taxable goods imported into the country for home consumption, taxable uncustomed goods, forfeited and auctioned, and taxable goods on transfer from bonded facilities. So 3 categories. It means importers of taxable goods who are not registered with the authority for tax will pay the upfront VAT in addition to the import duties and other taxes on the total value of the goods imported. It follows the amendment of the VAT Act 2013, that is Act 870, which imposed the upfront payment of VAT by unregistered importers as an administrative measure to enhance the performance of VAT. But my question on that is what that would lead to. You're already paying for importation. You're paying this extra 12.5%. I shared my experience, I don't know with you, many months ago when someone shared this bit about importing something so little into the country and how much the person had to pay. Then power of contempt necessary for justice delivery. The vetting of Chief Justice nominee Justice Gertrude Arba Esaba Saki Tokonu was not short of combative exchanges, entrenched political posturing, and subtle accusations, with contentious issues such as contempt of court, citizenship, and judicial independence taking center stage. With the NDC member, Professor Michael Kwesa-White, being summoned to appear before the Supreme Court tomorrow for allegedly making contemptuous comments against the court. Contempt was a major subject of scrutiny by some NDC members on the appointments committee. But you followed, so let me not belabor the point. You can speak to the issues, including those 2 I brought up. What are your thoughts, Kojo?
Right. Okay, Ben, in terms of the citizenship and then the delivery of the CJ, look, sometimes I think we tend to construe the 2 things in terms of what the citizen and the IB conversation. I think when the Supreme Court in the past made that issue that birth certificate is not a form to prove citizenship, in my view, and from what the judgment was, it was in context of getting a voter's ID, okay? That was a birth certificate, a good enough proof that I'm a Ghanaian to get onto the voters' roll. Now, when the Supreme Court ruled, they ruled that in that context, the birth certificate is not sufficient to prove to get onto the voters' ID, to get to the voters' roll. Now, a lot of people disagree with that. But it doesn't take away the fact that the birth certificate is still a proof of citizenship in this country. Because if you go to collect your passport, you go to the passport office, you need a birth certificate to be able to get a passport. So I think that the court might have to come back and be clearer on that issue, because it has been interpreted that, look, straight line, you can't use birth cert to prove citizenship, which I don't think is true for all cases, because as we stand, you go to the passport office, you still need to show your birth certificate. Now, that thought that if something is a source for an ID, in absence of the ID, you can use the source. I disagree, because in other jurisdictions, there are things that classify as ID, and there are things that classify as the source that you need to get that ID. If the ID is missing, you can't take the source with you to anywhere and says, oh, I use this to get my ID, so now let me in, I don't have my ID. It doesn't happen. It's only in Ghana that we are trying to now come up with these theories that, oh, if I use this to collect voters' ID, then why can't I use that as a substitute for voters' ID? It's not the same. They are primary identification and proof, and there are secondary identification and proof. The primary document doesn't necessarily replace the secondary document. If you lose the secondary document, you go back to the issuing authority to get it back. But don't go and say that, look, because and that is the argument in principle when you listen to the parliamentarians. Because they want to make it look like if somebody has a birth certificate, he can use that birth certificate to go and collect a voter's ID. And that has been ruled that no, you can't. Even with the issue of using a Ghana card to get a voter's ID, they want to argue with that. Why is it that I need a vote? But you see, we need to make laws for our land. And if we keep stepping back and keep second guessing these things, we'll never move forward.
Right.
Now, secondly, on her delivery, I think that she was, she showed that she understands the position that she's going into. She has been on the bench for so many years, and I think that, look, she's good for the job. We wish her good luck, and basically, when she gets the job, hopefully I'll be able to work with her as president and her as CJ. On the issue of IMF, I think we've discussed it. The action, the 600 million coming in and all those things is not the action that will set us on the road to recovery. The road to recovery will be started when the government admit and see the dire situation of where we are and basically change the over-expenditure attitude. Now, we are putting 12.5% upfront for importers. I have said that the taxes on imports are too much. Too much. Even today, if you have a product that is exempted from import duty, the VAT and the NHIL and those alone, it's too much. So if you are not paying that 25% or 15% or whatever percentage import duty is on that product, just the VAT and the taxes alone. So look, yes, we need to recover, but the country can only recover if businesses can grow. Businesses can only grow if they have some liquidity in their pocket to improve the business, to employ more people. If we go this way that we are going, which is what we brought upon ourselves with the IMF in town, we squeeze every little out of the people, it will be difficult for the country to grow at the rate at which they want us to grow.
Right. So interesting stories there. On the back page, we have sports. Kojo worsens Hearts' misery. Of course, Kofi Kojo, a former Heart of Oak player, plunging the dagger into the fans, Phobian fans. And that all of that happened over the weekend as Legon Cities beat Hearts of Oak by 1-0. Kotoko will be playing today versus Karela, and Mediama atop the league log with 56 points. Aduana Stars with 52, Bechem United with 51, Bibiani Gold Stars with 48, and Asante Kotoko 5th with 47 points. Of course, they have a game in hand. Where is Hearts of Oak? 8th with 45 points. Well, let's get into the Daily Guide newspaper. Appeals court halts lawyer's suspension. I intentionally read this just so I can give some education. Let me just put it that way. It's either the Court of Appeal or the Appellate Court. There's no such thing as the Appeals Court. Okay? Court of Appeal or Appellate Court. So let's just stick to Court of Appeal rather than this whole bit about Appeals Court. Appeals Court. It doesn't exist. So that story is on page 6. You could grab a copy of the paper and read that. Mahama, Nana Komia tassel over ex gratia. And then there is Nana opens 84 million euro Elmina fishing harbour. There's also 13 kilograms of wee intercepted at KIA. I'll do those two stories, Mahama, Nana Komia, and then the wee bit. So Former President John Dramani Mahama and Nana Akufo-Addo, managing director of the State Transport Corporation, are in a disagreement over ex gratia payments. Nana Akufo-Addo recently urged Mahama to refrain from accepting the payments of ex gratia henceforth, since he says he will review it when he returned to power. Now, during an appearance on Peace FM's Kokroko program last week, Nana Akufo-Addo expressed his intention to demonstrate his stance on abolishing ex gratia, since Mahama is current recipient of the controversial package and does not need to wait until he returns to power. In response, Mahama clarified on Twitter that he does not accept ex gratia and instead receives a monthly pension. He tweeted, quote, "My friend Nana Akufo-Addo, really sad what politics can do to a fine mind. I don't take ex gratia, I receive a monthly pension." That was the response. There's also on page 6, the Narcotics Control Commission, NACOC, made a significant bust on May 23, 2023, seizing a total of 12.67 kilograms of cannabis, also known as weed, worth $127,000 at the KIA cargo terminal. Why am I bringing this up? Ghana is far from being a narco state, but over the years, you know how the cookie has crumbled. We've been known, in fact, at a point we were cited as being one of the conduits. I think we've just narrowly got out of that. It's becoming a worry, all of these drug situations. Quick thoughts?
Well, I would want to get, you see, my challenge in this country, and one of the things that you clarified with the journalists who wrote the paper, and you are trying to correct them, saying that appellate court or court of appeal, nothing like, look, again, our fine journalists should be asking questions instead of allowing politicians, civil societies to come in and asking questions for them. If President Mahama says he gets a pension, the question I want to ask is that, what is it, a state pension or is it a private pension? Because he's never worked. What job has he ever done to get a pension? He's been a politician all his life, from being a parliamentarian to becoming a minister, to becoming a vice president, to a president. So is it a state pension that he's getting?
I don't know about he's never worked, because when you read his book, My Last Coup d'etat, I mean, he talks about other things. So I don't know about he's never worked a bit.
Let me clarify that. He must have had a private business that he's done. That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about His Excellency John Dramani Mahama that we know in public life. If he's saying that he's receiving a pension, what I'm saying is that pension a public pension or is it that a private pension? If it's a public pension, what public institution has he worked for to get a public pension? That's the question I'm asking. Because the point is, you need to have worked for an institution for a certain number of years, full-time, to accumulate a certain amount of pension. The job we know he's done, and I stand corrected. Somebody can correct me right now. That, oh no, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama worked here for 10 years or worked here for 5 years. What we know he's done from when I came into this country in 98, when he was Deputy Minister Communication, I think, till all the time that even when we were in opposition, he has been a parliamentarian. So somebody should come and tell us what work that he did, or he should tell us what work that he did that qualifies him for that pension. It will be a good starting point for that conversation, because if not, then he is getting benefits from the presidency, and that is ex gratia. If he is getting any benefit, and I remember when the state came to show money that they have paid towards his troubles, money that they have paid towards all the things that he received, and those things are as a result of the position that he has held. What my brother Nana Akufo-Addo is saying is 100%. If you don't want others to enjoy it, start from yourself and stop saying that I am not going to enjoy. So I think Ghanaians
should we just to get out of the woods, especially this whole trajectory really took off under the Kufuor, John Ejekum Kufuor, respected president of our land, former president. And that is when all these committees and all of that, it came to the fore, and ex gratia really became an issue. Do you think we should just scrap it? Do you think to save ourselves do you think we should scrap it?
No, I don't think we should scrap it. There's no need to scrap it. Why are you scrapping ex gratia? Look, I said this earlier this week in Tamale, and let me repeat it on your show, Ben. Look, what Ghanaians are angry for like my uncle Kwame Mpiani said, is the delivery. You come in as president, you come in as minister, you come in as whatever you are appointed to do, and you do not deliver. And on not delivering, you go home with a big reward to go home. Ghanaians are angry with the end result. If somebody came into Ghana and did a beautiful job and turned Ghana into Dubai, you don't think that person deserves to go home and ex gratia? He deserves to go home and ex gratia. So let's not use one brush to paint everything.
All right.
It would not augur well for us.
All right.
The issue is the delivery. The politicians who are not delivering. And Kwame Mpiani put it just right that, look, if you do not deliver, you should not get an ex gratia. But
all right.
Unfortunately,
I mean,
to do that monitoring.
The delineation of who has delivered and who has not delivered will become the next problem there when we get there.
It becomes difficult. But let me quickly touch on the we issue.
Very briefly. I want us to wrap in about 7 minutes. So okay, very briefly on that.
I honestly think that as a nation, we should look at our we policy. There was a document that went to Parliament to make sure that a certain brand of we can be grown and processed in this country for export. I don't know what happened to that bill, because there was an amendment to the Narcotics Act to basically allow licensing for the legal growing of a certain brand of weed.
So there are industrial uses for
yes,
for
there's
hemp.
a lot of industrial uses for weed.
Right.
Yes, but these ones I think are the normal weed that gets you high. The one that they want to allow to be grown under the industrial use, you can't get high from smoking those ones.
And it's also used in medicine, of course, Kojo, because for those who suffer epilepsy, for example, sometimes this is used, cannabis, I think the oil.
Yes,
I just think it's how we've approached the matter.
There's a small chemical in there that the one that cure epilepsy and all those things, you can use it to cure those things, but there's a small chemical that is taken out. There's a new breed of weed that you can grow legally. I don't know what happened to the act. That's what I'm saying. But the point of trying to now seize all these things at the port,
right.
I think the narcotics has to do a lot more, because you see, the trade has gone underground. It hasn't stopped. Even with cocaine, it's gone underground. It hasn't stopped. We have gone underground. It hasn't stopped. So we need to double up our steps to give Ghana a good name when it comes to narcotics.
All right.
I thought you would have spent a few minutes on the brand new fishing harbour that we have built in Elmina. It's worth talking about.
Go ahead. Share your thoughts.
Well, I think it's a promise made, promise kept. And the good people of Elmina, my people, Edna, now.
Pardon me.
You know I'm from Edna. I spoke Fanti. You didn't understand.
No, you are. I see.
Yes. My mother's father is from Edna. So I'm very happy for the people of Edna to have this beautiful fishing harbour. And my greetings to all the people in Elmina. And they should make good use of this beautiful facility. In 10 years from now, it should look as beautiful as it looks now.
Well, that is our hope. Maintenance culture in this country. That one, no one can even get in there. But very quickly to wrap, just some entertainment stories. Once Upon a Family hits major Amazon Prime streams. There's also Gloria Safo cries over sabotage. That's in the middle spread of the Daily Guide newspaper. And sadly, because some of us grew up listening to her music, Celine Dion has cancelled all her tours for 2023 and 2024 because she is suffering from a neurological disorder. We pray for her.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow,
you know, she's been through really tough times since the passing of her husband. She's become gaunt at a point. She's not been so healthy, and now we're told she's suffering some sort of neurological disorder. But
that's very sad.
Let's make tracks. One of the songs I'll always remember her for, Tax. She has this one about tax, life generally, and then of course the one in the Titanic. Who can forget? That one. My heart will go on.
Ben, are you an emotional person?
I think I'm somewhere in between. I'm a Pisces, by the way, so yeah. But the Finder newspaper, going to IMF was a painful decision for me. That's according to Nanado, the president. Kwame Mpiani kicks against review of free SHS. I'll just be reading what your uncle has been saying on that. And Ghana Card rescues UCC lecturer to travel from Germany to Ghana. Let's take a look at those stories. I'll not do the one about the IMF. I don't want us to do overkill, but on pages 4 and 5. So, a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Emmanuel Echampong, has recounted how his Ghana card came to his rescue when he sought to travel from Germany to Ghana but could not find his passport. Now, Dr. Echampong, who is the Data Hub and Information Systems Manager at the Center for Coastal Management of the university, said, upon presenting his Ghana card to the airline authorities for confirmation to enable him to travel, he was allowed to board the flight after verification checks. Speaking on Accra-based OKFM, he recounted that Air France in Hamburg rebooked a KLM flight for him after using his Ghana card to authenticate his identity. I've heard of other stories where people say they were not that fortunate, so I don't know what exactly is happening. But Kwame Pianim kicks against review of free SHS. And economist Kwame Pianim has advised government not to, quote, touch the free SHS policy in the quest to review flagship programs. But, of course, we do know that the IMF has said that the way we are rolling it out is not exactly the best way. It is poorly targeted. That is the wording of the IMF. Quick thoughts on these, very quick ones, as we wrap.
Well, I have a problem if the IMF say that, because in 2017, when we started rolling up the free SHS, we're in IMF. So which IMF came this time and has a problem with the implementation? Because when we started IMF in 2017, when we started free SHS in 2017, we were in IMF. We left IMF in 2018. So I don't know which IMF came this time, but the IMF that I know were here when we rolled out free SHS. And we've constantly said that free SHS is not part of our economic problem. We've all seen the numbers. The numbers from the free SHS is not. Look, in improving infrastructure in this country, if somebody is saying that we don't have the right infrastructure in the schools, I agree. If the IMF says that we are not putting enough money towards the facilities in the schools, I agree. But for anybody to talk about the fundamental impact of the free SHS on our budget, for me, I disagree if they say that. And I'm hoping that it will be kept. Don't let anybody do politics with it. The NDC have made it very clear that they will cancel it. They should come and tell Ghanaians in simple English if they will or they will not cancel it. But we MPP will keep IMF, will keep the free SHS, make it better, and make sure that all Ghanaians get free secondary education. The Ghana card, I think that we should make sure that the digitization of this country through the Ghana card works well. Like you're saying, works for some, doesn't work for some. It's a problem. So the right measures have to be put in place. We've said that it's going to be a mode of travel in the situation where you don't have a passport. We should make sure that immigration put the right measures in place to make that possible.
All right. The final story we shall do very briefly. And by the way, some people are asking, did you say Nanado had done 75%? Of course you said that, but they are just taking you up on our social media. That
Nanado's government has done 75%. Yes,
right.
And I will say it over again. He has performed 75%. The 15%.
No problem. I'm just saying that our viewers are contesting you. They obviously disagree. But
everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Exactly.
I Kojo Poku will give him 75% if I'm scoring him as a scorecard.
Right. Final story in the Ghanaian Publisher. I had no intention to insult Nogokpo, Ajanasari, Perez Chapel. And the founder of Perez Chapel International, Archbishop Charles Ajanasari, says he has no intention to cast a slur on any groups of people or their communities. A video of him categorizing the town of Nogokpo in the Ketu South Municipal as the headquarters of demons in the Volta region went viral and has attracted a lot of public criticisms. Now, responding to his critics during church service yesterday, he said, "I've received calls from people very close to me and my attention has been drawn to social media commentary on some portions of comments I made this past Thursday during the Supernatural Empowerment Summit at the Perez Dome." And he says that part is a bit blurred on the divine protection we enjoy as Christians from God, and I was teaching congregants on the need to activate divine protection from demonic attacks. He explains why he said that, but says he didn't mean any disrespect. A quick response to that, and it's a wrap.
Well, Ben, for me, there is a very simple scripture that says that all things come from God. And if all things come from God, our ancestors, before the Christianity was brought by the white man, had a way of worshiping God. be it fetish, be it whatever you want to call it. But it was something that served our ancestors well. Now, the white man brought Christianity, and some people have accepted it. Some people have not, and they still keep to the traditional way of worship. I think it's unfortunate that any priest, pastor, will use the Bible to cascade those things. It's not right. Okay? We should respect various faiths. We should respect various traditions. And I think that when you now go to communities that have faith and they still do things the traditional way, we should respect it. It's not right for any pastor, because that Bible, the Christianity you have, somebody can also be Hindu, Buddhist, or whatever, can also now say other things about it.
Right.
So I think we should be more acceptable to other people's faith than trying to say that because you are not a Christian, you're a demon. I think it's very wrong.
All right. Point well made, especially where we find ourselves in Ghana and, our consensus to understand one another. But I just wanted to make the point, usually the whites may have brought Christianity to our shores, but just to delineate that it is not originally from them. It had nothing to do with them originally. I'm only bringing that up because, I've even had conversations on group pages over the weekend where people were tussling almost as though whites invented Christianity and brought it here.
No,
but Kojo Poku,
we know they did not, but they brought it.
Right. Yes, they brought it here. Kojo, thank you so much for your time with us this morning, and we wish you the best of the day.
Thank you very much. And a quick one, I'm picking my forms tomorrow morning, and I hope your guys will come and cover it beautifully.
So you're going to be what, the fifth person?
I don't know. A lot of them will pick it up today. I'm picking tomorrow. All right.
Thank you, Kojo, for joining the conversation. Right before we wrap, happy 10th birthday to Jaden Kweku Apietu Ankra of the Ridge Church School. Jaden, this is to wish you God's blessings and favor on this joyous occasion, and it's from your entire family. 10th birthday, Jaden Kweku Apietu Ankra of the Ridge Church School. Happy birthday to you. God bless you and uplift you. This segment has been brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Locate them here in Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Kronoma here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanso and Esiama Nzima. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And that brings us to the end of the news review. But across the leagues, well, it was a wrap. Bayern Munich coming up with that decider at the very end to knock off Dortmund. There's more coming your way in sports.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftaru Nabila Abdullah. And we start with the WAFU Under-20 girls competition happening in Kumasi. Ghana came up against Cote d'Ivoire on Saturday, and the Black Princesses secured a 3-1 win to book a place in the semi-final of the competition.
And it was blocked again. And into the channel! What a goal! Scored the opener. Yeah, the Kumasi Mobile Sports Stadium against Benin has scored the opener again after just 14 minutes on the clock. A brilliant cross from Wasima Mohammed and timely match header by Mary Nyame.
That is a good header and free header indeed, as you can see, Ghana, Wasima.
And Mafia is into the channel, another opportunity for Ghana! And she makes no mistake! And then the skipper, Stella Nyamiche, who has scored her second in the tournament. And credit to Mafia Nyame who spotted her in a brilliant position. Estella, her namesake, delivered a stellar goal.
Beautiful display, beautiful build-up from Wasima.
Poor execution by him, but at the other end, and Afi failed to clear it properly. And Adejo, a chance here on the line, and still Ivorians have broken the clean sheet, and Mary has got a name on the score sheet. Don't forget, she came in for Deborah Angie, and what a blast into the roof of the net. Just look at this. Thumping finish by Mary. 62 minutes on the clock. And it's still the Black Prisoners who are leading by 2-1. Another chance here for Mafia. And Mafia Nameo! She's increased her tally in this tournament. 3 goals for her already, and she is one.
To the Ghana Premier League now, and it appears Medeama could be laying their hands on their first Ghana Premier League title after coming from behind to defeat King Faisal 2-1 to open a 4-point gap at the summit of the Premier League table. A second place team, Ediana Stars, suffered a 1-0 loss at home when they came up against Dreams FC. And Kofi Koji, a former player of Accra House of Oak, worsened the miseries of the club by scoring the only goal in their 1-0 loss against Legon Cities.
And Atinga returns with a powerful header. Now here is Samuel Kusi with a long range. What a goal! Ken Faisal jumping to the lead. Wonderful finish from Samuel Kusi. And the Akun Park is silent. Ken Faisal with a goal from nowhere. He took a step and unleashed this long range. The goalkeeper had come off his line and couldn't do anything about this. One step and that's the powerful drive. Ken Faisal up by 1-0 in Takwa. Free kick taken. Still a tussle in that area. And Medeama are back in it. They have the equalizer. Nuruddin pulls parity for Medeama. Medeama Sporting Club are back in it. It's a central defender, Nuruddin Abdullahi, who equalizes for Medeama. They are back in business, the mauve and yellow. Good delivery from Fatal. It wasn't dealt with well in the King Faisal area. Then Nuruddin rises and takes a powerful header. It hits the upright and goalkeeper have no chances. Medeama 1, King Faisal 1. That's the character of a team that wants to become champions. They are Mante. Good control from Fojo. He's got Nuruddin Ebla to beat. Fojo goes past Nuruddin. He goes with a cutback. And Medeama have the second goal. Joshua Ajiman puts Medeama ahead. They are in the lead, Medeama. Score for Medeama. Look at the pass from Manuel Mante and the control from Fojo. The presence of mind to go past Nasiru, the cutback on his left foot, and Joshua Ajman with a simple tap in. Medeama 2, King Faisal 1. Fojo will take the credit. Brilliant player, intelligent player by all standards. Medeama in the lead here. And they have won maximum points. They go 4 points on top of the league log. They've come from a goal down to beat King Faisal by 2-1. And the Asante Yeboah. Here is Kofi Koji for Legon City. Shoots on his left, and Kofi Koji finds the opener. Kofi Koji puts Legon Cities ahead. Powerful drive with his left foot. Good move to begin with. Koji takes one touch, and the second one is a left-footed drive, and certainly Richard Atta could have done better. Good effort from Koji, not to take away anything from Koji, but goalkeeper, if he gets a second.
Premier League champions 7 years ago, 7 years down the line, Leicester City have been relegated from the English Premier League, and they go down to the Championship with Ghana's defender Daniel Amate. So what does the future look like for Daniel Amate with this size, the Foxes? Well, his agent, Yusuf Chipsa, has been speaking to us. He says the wish of the player is to stay in the Premier League, but he will make a decision at the end of the season.
It depends. It depends because the contract is coming to an end, and for me, he has the negotiation power, and so we'll see how it goes. But one thing I can tell you for a fact is he loves to stay in the UK. He loves the English Premier League. But you can never tell. Sometimes certain offers come across board, you can't refuse. So,
are there discussions on renewing the contract?
There has been discussions, but it's not close yet. Amate wants to take a decision at the end of the season.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but he loves the English Premier League, and probably he might stay in the English Premier League, either with Leicester or a different club. But again, like I said, sometimes certain offers come your way that you can't refuse. So.
Well, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for us to get into our big stories. You probably know him as Nana KKD. Fashionista, broadcaster, one who speaks his mind freely. Anyway, it's another morning, and we're having breakfast with Kwesi Che Dakwa. He joins us on the show. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so happy to see you.
It's a real pleasure to see you again.
A little birdie told me you've been busy building your capacity.
Yeah, I've been very busy, but you know...
But it's not in broadcast media, it's in the law.
Yes, among other things.
Please don't leave broadcast media.
I won't.
Whatever you do, we still need you on air.
Glowing, you're leaving me feeling goosebumpy.
No, because I was watching the vetting of the
CJ nominee.
Of the Supreme Court nominee. And I was so heartbroken because for a few seconds, I was, in a crazy loop. I had somebody keep saying predator. I was like, oh, no, the word is
predator.
Predator.
Right.
So why are you saying predator? And you see, the reason I was worried is, in broadcasting, we're reminded every day that we educate, we inform, and we entertain. Now, the House of Parliament is a very important house in our nation. And it's important that the people who go there, whether they are speaking Chi or Ebe or Hausa or whatever language, make a conscious effort to get it right. We can't make these mistakes because what happens is our young will pick it from us because they think we know when actually we don't.
I guess it's the usual problem with people assuming that, oh, my professor at the university, if he says it, then it must be right. I mean, talking about the systemic problems, we still say okra instead of okra, and we still add very to superlatives. So it's quite a funny system.
It's not it's the lowest common denominator. And the lowest common denominator has a place in society. Every one of them is skilled in something. I was telling a professor friend of mine on my PhD program that, what will catch it? I said, David, me will catch it. And I'm saying, so, what catch it? But when it comes to language, especially in our highest house of debate in the country, it's important that whatever language we speak, we make a conscious effort to get it right.
And
that's why I remembered you.
Good to know. Speaking of the Kishre bits, it is true. If you've never performed that balancing act, you'll never understand what it's like. You take it for granted until you have to do it. But since you started off on that trajectory, speaking right, so to speak, you're a journalist.
Essentially,
you're a broadcaster.
First and foremost, I'm a journalist. That's my life. Everything I've done is essentially public communication, and it started with journalism and public relations.
When you look at the landscape in Ghana today, the state of journalism, I mean, recently we got that, is it Kodeo report about journalists are now ill-paid. They are in most circles. I'm not saying in every circle, but if you pick the top maybe 1%, 2%, 3% who are making something good, how about the 97% who basically have to scrape or eke out a living? That's one end of it. Then it's also about journalistic practice. How do you feel we're faring? We're not doing so well on the Freedom of Speech Index, but in terms of the practice itself, what are we doing?
Sadly, it's a conversation we had at the International Center for Journalists way back in 1992. I suggested that we have some basic examinations, entry level, intermediate level, and before people become sub-editors, some basic examinations. So people know that this is what you do, this is what you don't. And one of my colleagues at the time, I don't remember where he was from, but he said, look, King, you have to be very careful because the minute we start bringing these examinations in, we're going to be squashing freedom of speech. And I said, how is that? He says, because even the unqualified must have a voice. And I said, but if they want to be journalists, there must be some basic code of ethics and some basic practices that they must learn before they go on air. And we talked about it, but from 92 to date, I think I will resuggest that those who want to practice, especially in broadcast media and in print media, maybe later we'll talk about the bloggers, but for now, broadcast media and print media, there must be some basic training and basic examinations. And if you fail, just like with the law or like with medicine or like with architecture and engineering and nursing, you cannot practice.
Or chartered accountancy. I mean, all of these have bodies that regulate.
Why should it be that those who fail in everything must join those who are, exceptional in their field of endeavor and also assume the position of being able to address the nation? That's sad. They must be tested. And we need to take a lot of people off air. It's very important.
We need to take a lot of people off air.
You want some flowers to grow? Then you must continue uprooting the weeds. Because the way it's going, very soon, the weeds will be more than the flowers. And then our children will grow to think, oh, this is what our parents consciously cultivated. So the weeds become the new flowers.
Well, interesting perspective on which to start off the conversation. Let's get into some pertinent issues. Starting with, it's been how many months now since we last spoke? It's been a bit of time.
In September last year.
Great.
But the last time I spoke on the national broadcaster is 17th August 2022.
I do recall, and I know the situation there. But looking at everything that is happening in our country, from the last time we spoke to now, I remember the last time we spoke about the National Cathedral, we spoke about Ken Ofri-Atta and the economy, we spoke about. We'll be getting into these issues. Between then and now, have we got any better? Have we got any worse as a country? What is your reading of the picture?
What a synthetic world we are living in. Things have gotten worse. And anybody who cannot see that needs to have their eyes checked. Things have gotten worse. Things have gotten worse because there doesn't seem to be a clear plan where this nation is going. For every plan, there must be a purpose. And then for every purpose, there must be some targets that we are working at reaching. And then we must say, are we looking at our needs before our wants? As you and I speak today, it's just been found that apparently some miners have been using cyanide, so they can get their gold quicker. What will cyanide do? It will poison the water. It will kill people. And we have a president who has appointed people to work with him to safeguard first and foremost the wellness of the nation. Because if we are not well as a people, we cannot even start discussing prosperity. Cyanide to mine gold illegally in Ghana. And we are living with it. We have broken down homes that were built for judges, made those judges leave that space, and we are spending huge sums of money to accommodate those judges. And we have built a dam on a site where we claimed we were going to build a cathedral in a nation that is in dire need of hospitals.
You say we've built a dam because there's a hollow there that has not been filled.
No,
some people say it's the most expensive hollow anywhere in the world.
I like to think that there was a purpose for everything that was being done. So maybe the thinking was, if we don't even get to cathedral level, at least it will be a dam for a while. Who knows? We might be able to generate electricity for the ridge area. You never know. And then you look at the MatSet deal, which people want to forget. And MatSet was 7 cities. But Ghanaians sat down and watched our brothers and sisters in government supply MatSets to our children for something in the neighborhood of 80 cities or more, with some accoutrements which the children and the teachers did not ask for. And now there's yet another promise that we're going to replace your textbooks with laptops. So who is also going to cream the top of that? Let's stop this thing. We are a rich nation led by a poor thinking leadership that is enriching themselves by making the people of Ghana poor. Because like I said, and I was hoping it will go to court so I can bring all the documents to show, the motivation for most of our borrowing was the enriching of the few people who were influencing the borrowing to make the nation poor whilst they got richer. Now look where we are. Look where we are. Look what monies we've spent on the dam at Rage, and we've gotten 600 million. 600 million, isn't that money that Jospon Group can give you?
In fact, you consider the cost of what you call the dam, and it's in the region of $400 million plus. That's almost the same as the first tranche we've got.
Accra Friendship Club, of which I'm a member, or East Legon Executive Club, of which, many of my friends are members, must be able to raise that money for you if they believe that you will use the money prudently.
Are you saying KKD doesn't believe that the NPP, this administration, is going to use IMF money conscientiously for Ghana? That's what Mr. President said. Did you listen to him when he spoke yesterday? The 29th update on COVID-19.
Well, I watched him with sadness because I've told you, I have lost faith in this administration. I am just praying that this administration will be able to stay alive and live peacefully. And hopefully we can stop ex gratia for these people who have ingratiated themselves with the people of Ghana and made things worse for the people of Ghana. In a nation where young girls cannot buy sanitary towels because there are 14 different taxes on sanitary towels, we have a Council of State whose advice the president does not need to take, but is still paid, and they also receive ex gratia. And these people are still in leadership, and we are thinking, is this the best we can get? Like they said in the Wakanda movie, is this your king?
You say we're a rich nation led by a poor thinking
leadership.
Yep. And then you talk about people cutting deals.
Should I give you another reason why we're poor thinking leadership?
You could, but just let me pose the question. So that we are a people who have leaders who like to cut corners to fill their pockets rather than to line their pockets rather than provide for the people. What then do you make of that GNPC tussle? The one involving Freddie Blade, the energy minister, cease and desist.
Freddie Blade has become Pontius Pilate. He says, I wash my hands.
Right. He says he's now going to cease and desist.
But what does that mean? No, what does that mean? Look, even the class prefect, when there's too much noise in the class, right? And the school board or the governors of the school come by to say, what's happening in this class? The class prefect cannot say, I wash my hands. Now, if a 10-year-old will not say, I wash my hands when his class is making noise, how does somebody at that level of government say, I cease and desist? What does that mean? Look, my mother said something that I wrote down. You know, I go and sit with her. You know, she's going to be 83 in September. And, no, 84 in September. And I converse with her. And then she says the most profound things. And I had to write this down. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to write a whole book on this. I say, Kwesi Cheye. Akoma pa eni akukuduro. No kware ka ene fa wo homa. Edemufua. Akoma pa eni akukuduro. No kware ka ene fa wo homa. Edemu befua. Saa nneɛma wei onifrafuo mpo ohu. Ni anaso esie mpo ɔte. Enti nokura ne Ghana. Yempanyimfo no wo ma yeyi wo me ya because wo mu nye yempanyimfo because yempanyimfo ye papa mo ye nananom mo ene ya hemfo ne ya maame mo. These people are our elected public servants. We have given them all the perks so they will live well with their families, so they will do right by the people, so they can speed through traffic, so they will be safe and nobody can attack them, so they will have a policeman looking, you know, after them, so nobody can attack them. Pay them well so they can also pay their domestics well. And how do they serve us? How do they serve us? When people's fathers go to hospital and they say there's no bed and they die, and you say, okay, I'm aware of that, but I'm building a cathedral because I made a promise to my God. So what next? Somebody comes and says, well, I worship stones, so I'm going to go to the Afajatu mountain and commission that whole area and make it the stone grove and also develop it into something with whatever money. No, we don't bring you into power to come and do what you want to. Like Thomas Sowell said, people will tell you that this is the public interest, when in actual fact, they are only doing their selfish desires.
Is that what you saw in the Freddie Blay case?
The country is...
Is that what you saw in the Freddie Blay instance?
But of course. You see, and...
He says his hands are clean.
All these things must go to court. Now, citizens are going to have to take cases to court. Look, there's one I want to go to court. I want us to enact something on nepotism. You know, when JFK made his brother, 35-year-old who had never tried a case in court, the Attorney General, right? After he had died and gone, even though people said he was a good president, and he also made, his brother-in-law head of the Peace Corps, the people said no. So after he had died, and another person was in power, they put forth a document that was enacted into law. They act on nepotism. So once you're president, you can't employ any relative.
Should we get to that point in this country?
This administration has shown us that nepotism is real.
But
it's ugly.
Isn't it shocking? Because
it's
there were complaints about the previous administration, and probably the only person that
they should have done it
was Bawa Mokhtari. No. And now, as many would say, there's quite a list.
The nepotism is ugly. Look, there are some people who do not have finances to come and give you money for your campaign, but they queue to vote, right? And they have studied, they have mastered their area of work. You say, it's got to be my family before everybody else. So we have to think of a law on nepotism. This is something I expect the Ghana Bar Association to be talking about, because I think their silence in this administration is deafening. It's deafening. Is it because the president is a lawyer? So it's a courtesy to one of us? It's worrisome. I'm asking the question. It's worrisome.
And others have posed the same question. But On the bit about, yes, we're talking about these shady deals that supposedly, and no one is saying that that deal was shady, but I guess as the cookie crumbles, we'll find out when we read the documentation and we look at some of the issues that we've seen in the offshore situation. But ex gratia.
I have talked about it with clarity.
I want you to delve into it one more time. And it is this. Should we scrap it? Or should we proceed with it? Consider Kwame Pienim, for example, economist. He was speaking over the weekend and said, look, if you're a president and you come, and we have a vicious cycle where almost every 6 years we go to the IMF anyway. If you're a president, you come, you lead us into an IMF situation. You don't get the benefits.
No, you shouldn't
when you are no longer president. And if you're in some other capacity, minister or whatever, and you don't deliver, no ex gratia for you. I mean, there have to be some benchmarks. But on the back of that, there's been a tussle. The Daily Guide captures it this morning. Mahama Nana Akufo-Addo tussle over ex gratia. Former President Mahama.
What is the president saying? What is Nana Akufo-Addo saying? I'll take a stance.
So the former president has said, if he gets the reins of power one more time, he'll scrap this bit. Ex gratia.
See, the thing is,
then
he can't, because you
says,
have to go to Parliament.
And those are the processes. Exactly. As for the processes to be followed,
yep,
they are in there.
Fantastic.
But the point is, Nana Akufo-Addo says, but you're benefiting from it. You're a current beneficiary of the system. Then the former president comes to clarify in a tweet. He says, my friend Nana Akufo-Addo, really sad what politics can do to a fine mind. I don't take ex gratia. I receive a monthly pension.
So you're telling me that a former member of parliament, Nana Akufo-Addo, did not know the difference between the monthly pension and ex gratia?
That's the bone of contention now.
Okay. Now, I think ex gratia should be scrapped, and I'll tell you why. We have the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. If you pay into that, depending on your profession and depending on your position, you may go home with your full salary during your pension. For some people, they get less. So these people who are already in the highest positions, who would go home with perhaps their full salary when they went on pension, are the ones who are still looking for more. Let's serve the needy, not the greedy. Ghana, listen. Serve the needy, not the greedy. You've been given so much. You have so much influence. Now you're going home and we collect these amounts of money and we say, take it. And if you don't go home and you come back to Parliament again, you sit there and you take it again. I mean, look, we have to question our elders. Not all our elders were brilliant. Let's accept that immediately. You know, from the days of slavery to now, not all our elders were brilliant. And some of them looked at the exigencies of the time and put certain things into law. But not all laws make sense. There was a time when slavery was in law. So are we going to say it was a good law? Ex gratia idea is a bad idea. If the people who are getting it will stand up and say, like former President John Mahama has said that, you know, I will speak to my people and I'll say, if I'm going to give you an appointment, you must accept you're not going to take ex gratia. And then they go through the court processes, go through Parliament and take it off our books. That would be a very good thing.
So that would be your approach?
Of course. We need to scrap it, but we need to scrap it lawfully. A president can scrap it. You know that. Because the president can propose it and get his majority in Parliament to scrap it. Seeing as the way we vote in this country is often just based on partisan lines, not even based on constituency lines. I doubt if people are having conversations with their constituents and their constituents are saying, hey, we don't want the e-levy. I mean, they go into Parliament, they are whipped in line, and they vote the party line. So, and that is why I think in the same way as broadcasters may have to be tested in some basic examination before they go on air or go and write in the papers, so too parliamentarians must have some basic aptitude tests. Because I think some are just freeloaders.
When you read the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, it stipulates what the qualifications are, sound mind and all of that. Beyond that, you think we should still...
Many are mad.
Take them through...
Many are mad. Few are roaming. Because
are you suggesting most of our parliamentarians are not up to the task?
Not most. I think some are not up to the task.
Like which ones?
I will not name them. But some are not up to the task. And amongst the parliamentarians, they will tell you. It's a fact. In every field of endeavor, there is a small percentage that does most of the work. And the rest, freeloaders, they just come on through. So they are the ones who will be instructed, vote this way and let's go. Because I want to see the voting record of every parliamentarian. And I pray to God Almighty that we'll also get to a point where this secret voting will even stop. Why are you so scared that you don't want us to know how you vote? Whatever is brought to Parliament, you must be able to defend your vote.
But looking at the nature of our politics, it is the secret vote, for example, that gave us a Speaker of Parliament for the first time in the Fourth Republic who is from the opposing side. If it is known, your party system whips you. And if you are known to go against the party's stance, you know there are consequences, right?
So what are we doing with our Parliament? Is it party first before the nation?
I guess we all have contributed to it. We should ask ourselves.
I would have thought that, well, maybe I'm an idealist, but I think it should be the nation first, your constituents next, and then your party. Who elected you to go there? You know, are we serving the nation or are we serving the party? Which one is it? So maybe in Africa, we may have to go to the one-party state. So that way you'd have no choice but serve the nation. Because this whole partisan politics, look, the worst performing person ever in the voting process, in the vetting process in Parliament, got the highest vote. The worst performing ever. You know, confused, couldn't answer your questions, but they got the highest vote. Some people say, well, people were bribed. I don't know. Some people say, oh, the women said, oh, we have to stand by the woman. I don't know. Some people say, oh, the party said we should vote. I don't know.
Are you referencing Mavis Hawakumsin?
Of course. Nice woman, but she was the worst performing at her vetting. Compare that to the Supreme Court nominee. I'm not saying she should be skilled in the law, but you must be able to speak, you know, proficiently about what you're going to oversee. And I think that ministry is even another waste of money. The U.S. has one Department of Agriculture. One. And then
like in our case, it could be a ministry for agriculture.
And that is a bigger nation. Same with China. The U.S. has how many departments in cabinet? 15? The UK, 20-something? China, 21? And we have how many ministries? Why do we do this to ourselves? Is it because of black inferiority? Or is it because we just accept that we are not competent and we cannot manage a large group of people? Because we know who we are appointing and we know they are not capable, so we must share it. I mean, make it look like everybody's running a little lotto kiosk.
But don't you forget, when the president started on this trajectory and there was talk about it, he said he was a man in a hurry and that to achieve his goals, he had to put a lot more people to ramp it up.
A hurry into debt. And everybody blames it on Ukraine. And Ukraine in a war is still feeding themselves. What's wrong with us? Look, let me tell you what. Every job must be first about competence. And if you have the competence, find the purpose for which you want that job. And when you find the purpose, choose your focus and do it. Look, free education started by Kwame Nkrumah, great idea. People came, moved Kwame Nkrumah off, tried to destroy everything he had done. But the good thing is, a good follower of Kwame Nkrumah came and said, we will build more schools. We will get back to the free education thing. And another good follower of Kwame Nkrumah came and said, yeah, we will do the free SHS. Right? But for me, I said it from the start, that I don't think that Jospong wants his children to get free SHS. I don't think Kennedy Ejapon wants his children to get free SHS. I don't think, and a good number of people want their children to get free SHS. My younger sister pays for her child to go to a private school. So why do we want to use this political, talk to waste the state's resources? We don't have the money.
That brings me to the IMF deal. And of course, because in discussing part of our flagship programs and all of that, when they spoke about free SHS, they said it was poorly targeted.
But of course, that's what I'm saying.
We heard from the information minister say that, look, right from the onset, this was our positioning. We never meant to target anyway. I mean, if I'm reflecting properly what he said, we are reaching out, spreading the net. We don't want to skew it in a certain direction. Now we've got the IMF deal. I'm just putting it together so you can respond. We've got the IMF deal. 600 million has hit our kitty, the central bank. The president, in speaking about it on an international platform,
we must behave to get the next tranche.
We must. There's a stick.
We must behave.
And if you don't act right, you'll not get the carrot. You'll get the stick. But Mr. President was touting and how we got our staff level agreement probably in one of the fastest, and that 10 months we've got an IMF deal almost in record time and all of that. Yes, that was how he spoke about it. How do you feel about that IMF deal?
Sometimes when I listen to my dear brothers in the MPP speak, they sound like the team that goes to get a draw with another team, and they say, we won 0-0. How did you win 0-0? You're broke. Look, I'd like the producer to play that video because, I don't want to hear from the opposition. I want to hear from the people in power. Because one gentleman who is in the MPP, who is not one of the elected leaders, he does well to look after his wife and children, who writes stuff about government, even before the Minister for Communication speaks about it, said certain things about going to the IMF. And you have the video, so would you be kind enough to play it? Or whilst you wait for the video,
we'll do that in a bit.
Because if you listen to the things that they said, I think Gabi Ochridako spoke about it. Mahamadou Baumia also spoke about it. Abronye also spoke about it. I made a conscious effort to send all the videos to your producer earlier. So if they don't play it, I have beef with them. Because, this is...
We are going to play it.
There's an audiovisual medium, and I don't like us to do radio and television. It's important that we support what we're saying with the videos, because when you can hear from the horse's own mouth, there is no need for gentlemen to be neighing.
Let's just continue on that trajectory. We'll be playing the video shortly. But the IMF deal, like I've said, it's come through. You've expressed your own concern about where we're headed with this entire enterprise. In the midst of all of that, there are those who have been pretty skeptical about what the future holds. Because, again, in this interaction, our own president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, sort of shared the idea that we'll be looking forward to getting back to the capital market, borrowing market. And some found that shocking. You're in an IMF situation and you're eager. In fact, even the practicality of it is being called into question because...
We are a broke nation. We are a broke nation, and we should look at this as leaders of our own households. Not all of us want to build palaces, but everybody wants to be able to provide food, clothing, shelter, and some medical care for their family. Then after that, we can get everything else. We can't do these. And so we have gone to somebody to help us do this. But before going to that somebody to help us do these, we stood in front of President Macron of France and said, we're going Ghana beyond aid, and we don't need that. I mean, diplomatically, I looked at that and I said, this is a sham. And immediately I remembered a great man called Anan Kato. And I was thinking, how does Anan Keto see this? Because here we are saying, oh, we went to the Paris Club. We went to the Paris Club. Who are the Paris Club? Are the French part of it? You stood there and embarrassed your president saying, we don't need you this, we can do this, we can do this. And now you are there begging. Let's be fair. What we are doing is begging. We are begging. And not only are we begging, we are leaving debts for our children and our children's children to come, whilst a few are plundering the state to make sure they safeguard their children. And this is what is happening. Now, let me come to another one. Are you aware that electricity tariffs are going up by 18%?
Well, they've been going up for a while, together with water tariffs.
But another 18% now. So when you have to announce your electricity tariffs going up by 18%, and you tell the people with only less than 3 weeks' notice, how do you expect the factory worker who earns $500 a month, but whose transport to work is $500 a month? Yeah? Think of how they're going to iron their clothes and even read a book and even charge their phone. How then do you expect the one who also earns even $5,000 a month but pays for their children's school fees, have their children learn in the evening, and in the very hot, weather of Ghana today, even turn on the air conditioner for only 3 hours a day? People just don't have the money. And some people have wasted our resources. And when I look at the foot soldiers in all the parties, I'm like, Sabiuta Frache, Okwasiape, and Yitian Prince. You're sitting there. The people who give you coins, who spit for you to lick, are safeguarding the future of their children. And they are passing on these tariffs to you. And you don't realize there's something wrong. We are a highly indebted nation now. Aren't we worse off than when we were going to HIPIC? In fact, aren't we worse off now than in the administration of the current president's father when he was ceremonial president, and the current finance minister's father when he was minister of finance, with their borrowing that led to Kutuwe Champon saying, Yentia.
In other words, you're saying that about 45, 50 plus years on, after this era that you speak of,
we are back to a worse situation.
Ghana is actually worse off.
This is who doesn't know this? Where are the economists? You see, we pretend that a few people are the only ones who can think. Everybody can think. We acknowledge that some people have gone to study to be in certain fields of endeavor, but everybody who has to balance a budget in their home can think. Every housewife knows that when it gets to a certain point, you tell the children you can't take so much of the toilet roll. You can't boil the water till it's boiling, like you're going to pluck the feathers off a chicken before you go and have your bath and then pour cold water in it. You have to manage. Cut your coat according to your shirt. What's wrong with us? So we're all sitting here, tickling ourselves and laughing and listening to speeches and promises. I want to hear Bawumia and what he said about borrowing at the time when the previous administration went to the IMF.
I mean, it's interesting because you listen
to hear
the likes
Gabi.
of Dr. Mohammed.
I was going to
mention his name.
I want to hear them.
Because there's that popular video where he talks about the fact that, it was on Newsfile with Samson Ladi. Yes, I do. I mean, we could dig up my team is looking at those.
But Ghanaians are not stupid. We don't want war. We don't want battles. But we are not stupid. Even those who voted for you are whispering and saying, this is so bad. It's so bad. How else do you want us to say it?
Let me just maybe if we can get snippets of that conversation, because
I sent both videos to your
in
producer.
recent times. The one where Gabi Otredako, talks about what it means to go to the IMF. I recall because I saw it again recently, and we'll check out.
Before speaking about
send those videos,
I sent them.
Okay, so we'll check them out
to your guy, and I said with Gabi, I had to put the disclaimer there. He's not an elected official. He just happens to have some relatives in government, and he happens to be able to tweet stuff out even before the Minister of Communication, uses it. But the point is, he said these things, and the party supports him. But let's say we don't use Gabi because he's not an elected official. He has no power, except for those who are groveling and fawning, who will beg anybody as soon as they know their relative is in power. Then let's go and listen to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and listen to what he said. He says when you have no ideas, when you're bereft of ideas, when you don't know how to run the economy, that is when you go to the IMF. And now you're saying, oh, I never wanted to go to the IMF. The NDC told you, they said, look, we've gotten to a point where we need help. Go now or it's going to be worse. And you didn't. And you didn't. And you didn't. And eventually what happened? Eventually what happened? So the debt is for all of us. We're going to pay more for water. We're going to pay more for petrol. We're going to pay more for electricity. And now we're also going to have the toll booths back. But they have already been destroyed because somebody's brain fart led all the toll booths to stop working when we knew full well we needed that money from the toll booths. So are we now to sit here and believe that the people running this country are brilliant? Brilliant, my derriere. The only people who call them brilliant now are the people who say they are eating ice cream when they are licking the exit of people's human anatomy. But the thing is, it shows clearly because the brown stuff will be seen on your lips and your tongue. Where is the brilliance?
Are you saying then that
this is incompetence?
You are not impressed by...
Impressed?
I mean,
impressed?
This administration has touted...
Impressed?
You hear the president
touted,
speak
show
and
me results.
He talks about the fact that his vice president is very able. In fact, only yesterday he made mention of that. And you have these words for them?
It's sad. This is what a lot of Ghanaians are thinking, right? Those who wait for food to be pushed off the tables, so when it falls on the ground, they eat it like dogs, will come and stand on TV and give you analysis and say they are impressed. But deep inside, when they lay down with their wives look them in the eyes and say, Ntimikunu, wait Jimmy sir. If you can't tell the truth, shut up.
Are you saying you have no hope in terms of our economic recovery? We have the IMF deal now. It's a deal breaker, so to speak.
It's a deal breaker. Hope. Right now, our hope is in the IMF. I don't know which 38-year-old boy from the IMF is going to be telling us what to do. But for all...
I like the reference. Yeah. I think it's Stéphane Roudet you are referencing, the 38-year-old who came. He led the IMF team.
Nice guy. But Stéphane my point is, who leaves his house at Rage to go to somebody's house at Kanishi to say, Charlie, things are not going well in my home. Come and manage my home for me for the next 3 to 5 years. Who does that? And still says, we are brilliant. And even worse, you get Gabi writing things like the what is scary. The what? There's something they write.
Outlook?
No, the opposition or the alternative. The alternative.
Right.
Dude, you are the worst. You are the worst. If anybody can say it, this is not about MPP, NDC, CPP, whatever. This is the worst government we have ever had in this country. The worst ever. Look at all the metrics. Go and look at the metrics.
Pre-independence, we had the struggle, then post-independence.
Look at all the metrics.
What makes this administration the worst?
The worst? Bad decisions. Corruption. Worst nepotism ever. And promises not kept. All every man has is his word. Now, if you can't keep your word, you're not a man. And all every man can be is compassionate. But if you look at the monkeys that are in the sanctuaries and you look at somebody come to drop bananas by the roadside and all the monkeys run out and everyone plucks just 1 or 2 and runs back into the sanctuary to call other monkeys to come and get some bananas too. Do you know why they call the others to come and get some bananas too? Because they know that the bananas will rot in 4 days. So everybody must be fed. Now, if you are a human being and you can look at your country go to seed, You can look at your country get into debt and into slavery whilst you enrich yourself. If somebody calls you an animal, have they insulted you? Because we call the monkey an animal.
Are you suggesting...
The greed is ugly.
Kwame Nkrumah spoke about neocolonialism.
But we're already there.
Are you suggesting that on the back of our economic woes, we are slaves once again?
Yeah, I used the word slave earlier in a conversation, and one of my friends says, no, Kwesi, you can't say we are slaves.
But is that, I just want to get it clear. Yes. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I want a nicer word for slaves because we are not necessarily in captivity with shackles on our hands,
are our brains shackled?
And manacles on our ankles. No, our brains are free. But some choose to feed themselves and starve their brothers. And also, you look at the Galamsey in this country. It's Ghanaians who lead people to the Galamsey sites. I have a few lands in Adansi. Now, if somebody goes to one of my lands and digs a fish pond on my land, it's either they are criminal and I'll have them arrested, or they have my blessing. That is why the fish pond is there and they're rearing their fish. It's as simple as that. So who are the custodians of the lands all over Ghana? It's the chiefs and citizens in that area. The chiefs hold the land in trust for the people. But who are the people who are working with our locals to do the Galamsey most in this country? It is a nation we are greatly indebted to.
All right.
So we are even afraid to arrest their people.
And even as you start talking Galamsey, I don't want you to get too deep into that, but we have a few videos that we want to start playing on different bits. Let's watch these videos and we'll come back into the studio with KKD.
Fantastic.
I think it's important to look at it. First of all, how many countries are currently receiving IMF bailout? And why are they doing so? And these are countries that have failed in managing their finances. I think that's how you have to look at it. We went, because the bottom line, we are going to the IMF because we have been reckless. We have been to the point of even what one could allege criminality in some regard. Notice government has been overborrowing from the central bank, and beyond that we are having issues as we speak. This year so far, the CD is the worst performing currency in Africa. This year so far, so really the idea is to see how that can help pop it up. We need the IMF because we have lacked discipline in solving our own issues. But the money from the IMF, I'm not too sure how far that will go in resolving the issues. Because don't forget, 2 years ago, we went to the Eurobond to borrow 1 billion. We still had issues. That by the middle of last year, our currency was competing with the criminals. And you know, what is the good news? At what cost? One, they say they will remove all subsidies. Whether the subsidies are targeted at the poor or not, those subsidies are going. IMF are not necessarily interested in economic growth. IMF, their policies have never been to, as it were, help you create jobs. It is to make sure that, look, you can pay your debts, okay? And paying debts doesn't necessarily directly benefit the Ghanaian. Because look, in Argentina, they've stopped them from even, they have to cut down the salaries to what? Doctors and teachers. In June, if you're not careful, what's happening with the doctors? So all these things are tied. Beyond that, what are the other things that they are looking for us to do? They're also saying that there should be, government should do what they call right-sizing. You know, now they use terms. It's really downsizing or just laying people off. But now they say right-sizing because they feel that the size is not right. So lay people off. But clearly, it is not going to happen. Workers are going to suffer, and they're not going to suffer because the IMF says so. Okay. They are going to suffer because we have been reckless in how we spend the money that we've been getting. Right. Because, look, bottom line, brother, over the last 6 years alone, revenues from gold, they've been double what it was. You know, so at the end of the day, you ask yourself, where has all the money gone? And what is happening is that we are spending more and more money to pay our debts rather than investing in capital expenditure or capital projects that will create jobs. So you are looking at it, the IMF will not create jobs. The IMF will not make sure that the salaries match up with inflation. IMF will make sure that hopefully, the reckless spending will go down. And I think that's the positive aspect of it.
Okay, thank you.
But in terms of expanding...
We were happy that we found oil, but the borrowing of this government, the reckless borrowing of this government, has compromised the whole oil discovery. 6 times, you need 6 times of our oil revenue just to pay interest, not even capital. It's interest on the debt. So it is a really sad development. I mean, what fundamental issues that affect this economy have been addressed in this budget? You should ask yourself, what fundamental issues? If we had spent, the monies borrowed, and that money borrowed is the equivalent of some $37 billion over 7 years. Now, can you imagine what $37 billion can do in an economy? $37 billion. I mean, it's amazing transformation that you can see.
The investment the government is talking about. We are going to add about 800 megawatts of power.
But we are talking about a record. You can always talk, we are going to do this, the question is, what have you done? You've had 7 years in government. What have you done? I mean, your record should speak for itself. You shouldn't be waiting for the 8th year. The IMF, they can point to even a lot. Oh, yes.
They will point to the Rich Hospital. They will point to
when the Kufuor administration was there, with such meager resources, so much can be pointed to as well. Infrastructure, as John Mahama says, if you point to infrastructure, you are engaging in an exercise of mediocrity. But the IMF managing director put the nail on the head when they said that the borrowing done by this government has been used for consumption. It's not me saying it. It's been used for consumption and not for investment. This is the IMF's assessment. And if you look at the data that supports what she's saying, the infrastructure to GDP ratio has come down from 9.1% when the President Kufuor was in office to 4.8% today. Infrastructure. I'm going to be unveiled on Thursday when we address you. I don't want to. Of course I can, but I want to leave that to breathe. But we are going to build a new economy, a different economy. And you will be hearing a little bit more, because you cannot just criticize without providing alternatives. And we are going to, and we have anyway.
You can tell us something as to what exactly.
I'm telling you, it's an exciting. I will tell you what it is not. It is not a doomsday economy. It is not a dead goat economy. It is not a friends and family economy, right? It is an economy that will create jobs.
What to do with it? There was an orchestrated scheme, even within the party and government.
To get you out.
To get you out. So that, look, when I left, now everybody is in the forest. At that time, you dare not enter the forest. Yeah. But as I said, I don't want to go into details now because I have a lot to say on that. But let me tell you that I did not take one excavator for anything. And they know the truth. Now, things are coming up. We know those who are behind it, and the party people who are there, people in government, including Jubilee House, who are doing Galamsey and so on, even now. So let Frimpong Boateng stay in his corner and enjoy his retirement.
I couldn't help but laugh at that one.
Now you understand me?
I get you, but I just want to reiterate. Some have said that it was almost as though some of these officials now in power were speaking to their future. You listen to Gabi Otredako, who is not in office, by the way. But the current vice president, we are going to build a new economy, a different economy, not a doomsday economy.
Look,
there was a point where my lights have been going on and off.
3 days ago. So now we have to look at just reactivating the generator. What's all this?
On the back of all of this, though, how would you score the MPP now? I do this every time because
I don't want to score them. I want them out of power. End of story.
Kojo Poku, there's a reason.
Besides someone, I mean, you are not.
There's a reason I'm posing that. I want you to give me an answer. I don't want you to skirt the issue on this one. Kojo Poku, an energy analyst, he's a flag bearer aspirant of the MPP. He scores this administration 75%. Do you then agree with him?
Well, opinions are like noses. Everybody has one. And so long as you don't poke yours in my face, you can keep it as it is. Like I told you, we have gotten the point where people who are truckling and fawning are licking people's backsides and saying they are eating ice cream. This is a bad economy. This is bad governance. This is selfish and greedy people in positions of authority. Definitely not all of them. But if you look at the deals that are going on, the nepotism, the no care for the poor people but themselves, even when we talk of school feeding program, who are the people feeding the children? Is it the government or is it the people who are lending the foodstuffs to the buffer stock people? Who is suffering for feeding the children? What's wrong with us? Now, I look at all these videos and I ask every Ghanaian, for a minute, think like a human being and remember the words of Frank Kafka. He says, one fool is one fool. Two fools are two fools. 1,000 fools are a political party. So stop thinking of a political party for a minute and just apply only common sense for a minute. And ask yourself, were these people who were speaking about this administration? Because everything they were saying applies to this administration. In fact, you heard Baumia even talk about 6 years. It's this administration. And look, you need to check the rhetoric of all politicians. They are not carpenters. You see, when a carpenter says he does great work, you can tell by what he constructs. I guess that is why even in the Bible, Jesus came as the son of a carpenter. The carpenter who brags that he does great work will put a chair in state, and as soon as somebody sits on it, they will fall. For most other professions, even for doctors, a lot of times it is God who heals and the doctor takes the fee. But these politicians, I mean, beware of all politicians, but these ones now in Ghana, the worst government ever. So if he scores them 75, maybe he's scoring others 125 over 100. So you need to get a comparative analysis to understand why he scores 75.
Good point. Let's talk corruption in the midst of all of this. The indices don't look good. In terms of the perception of corruption, in terms of the actuality based on work from the Ghana Statistical Service in collaboration with UN agencies.
Well,
what do you make of it?
You feel the corruption every day.
You feel it?
You feel it every day.
Is that palpable?
You see, I'm coming. And then when you feel it, you question the feeling. Because feeling is not something you can use in a court of law. But then you see all these people who have only just gotten into positions of authority recently. One young man was talking to me whilst traveling with me to Suhum the other day. He says, boss, I thank you for speaking. And when I got to a funeral, these musicians who were supposed to be playing for the chiefs all just came out and surrounded me and were drumming and singing praises. And I said, well, there's no praise for me. It's just praise for speaking the truth. And this young man was saying, look, I look at some of my friends who are not even brilliant in school, who have just gotten a few political appointments recently, and I look at what they have been able to do. And if I say it, people might say I'm jealous. I said, no, nobody's going to say you're jealous. You're just telling the truth. You live well. You know, you have a home in England, you have a home here, you live well. So you're not jealous of them. Just speak the truth. And if everybody would speak the truth about everyone in the community, we would see that the corruption is real. Like I said, many are mad, but few are roaming. Many are stealing, robbing this nation blind, but few are complaining.
And that is why we need all these voices to just sort of straighten all of us and get us thinking. Sometimes you read some of the comments we're getting, some very positive, others also suggesting that maybe there may be an agenda. No, the agenda, in fact, there is an agenda. The agenda is Ghana. And to put Ghana on the map and make it that land flowing with milk and honey. We already have the resources. Have you stopped to ask yourself why we're still wallowing in poverty and going back to the IMF? Questions we all should answer. It also reminds me, on this very trajectory, Kwame Pianim, again, saying we are being recolonized all over again.
But, you know,
just to re-echo what you said.
Anybody who cannot see that has a problem. You see, Ghana.
And thanks to
Samson
Ladi Anyenene, my senior colleague, for reminding me of some of these developments. But
Samson Cry, I have a conversation with you. You'll be casa later. And,
that conversation will happen at some point. But to wrap off the conversation, before we take your final words, Galamsey has become such a menace. I don't know whether you followed recently.
Cyanide. I mentioned the cyanide. Now we are killing people to get gold.
Cyanide, mercury, all of that. There's also the gold catch-up program, to be fair to government. They're trying to use that to take out the cyanide bit. But how many are there? How many of these are available to the miners? But the point to be made is it is becoming so destructive that the Ghana National Fire Service has said that even water, it's got to the point where it's so murky in some places that the Ghana National Fire Service is struggling to get water to douse fires.
And Ghana,
it's got to the point where a professor at the KNUST is saying, look, a medical, is saying, we are having children with deformities. So many things are happening, and they are more exposed, about 50% plus exposed.
In addition to that, Ghana Water is saying the water is getting so bad, it's getting too expensive to treat it to make it potable. So very soon, water will be too expensive to drink. The people going to the Galamsey sites are buying their bottled water to take there. What about the children and the boys and girls who are being used as though they were slaves in their own countries to do the washing? What water are they drinking? So if I talk of this selfishness and greed and total irresponsibility in positions of authority, Ghanaians must wake up and understand that when we elect people, we choose them as our brothers, as our kinsmen, who have some knowledge, but who also have goodwill and compassion to come and serve. If they don't have knowledge, we shouldn't choose them at all. But if they have knowledge, but they have no compassion, if they have knowledge, but they have no wisdom, and if they have knowledge, but they are not truthful, and if they have knowledge, but all they are worrying about is the wealth and the avarice and greed, so that they can fly in an aeroplane that they cannot afford, and within 3 months of flying in that expensive aeroplane, all of a sudden we realize we have no money. And we are all sitting there like, you can't be angry. My mother constantly reminds me, Kwesi, this world is not our own. We are all just passing through. I said it the other day. Jim Reeves. It's one of my father and my mother's favorite songs. She reminds me of all that. And then my father reminds me,
this world is not our home.
I'm just passing through. And then my father reminds me. He says, but once in a while you must raise your voice against injustice. You must raise your voice against greed. Because if you do not speak against greed, the few greedy will prosper and the many needy will suffer.
These very points you make, knowledge, wisdom, compassion, and others, President Akufo-Addo rode on these very bits to come to power. Competence, compassion, listening to the people. What do you see in him now?
Emptiness.
Emptiness?
Yeah, emptiness.
What sort of emptiness?
Just emptiness. Because it's all talk, no walk. All talk, no walk. Look, even in your own small home, if every time your children have to go to school, you have to borrow, to the point where now you can look away for your wife to go to the bed of another man because you need that money before you pay your fees. You may not have shackles on your hands and manacles on your ankles, but there is no doubt you're a slave. And if you live in a nation that has all this abundant greenery in every scenery, and you have all this plentiful water that you can use to grow food to feed yourself, but you import most of your food, and also even in the abundance of that water, your people are thirsty, it is not amiss for people to call you fools.
I have a friend who's watching from the US, the United States, Paula, and she says she likes what you're saying this morning. She's not Ghanaian, by the way.
Oh, I guess maybe. I think when people say that, it's because you're speaking their mind. Let's be fair. It is not everybody who is courageous enough or confident enough to speak publicly. Confidence does not just come out of a vacuum. Confidence is born of competence. So if you have some competence in some specific field of endeavor, you can parlay that into your confidence. And there are so many people too who are eating a little from the corruption that is going on, who are messengers of people in fleeting possession of power and some money, so they will never speak their mind. Those people, however, when they see you privately, they come and congratulate you. As I get wherever I go, chiefs and elders coming to congratulate me and say, we are Bema, we are Bema, we are Bema. They beat me a Ghana, but
maybe we need more men.
Momianka. Enyanswa momianka.
That is the way to go.
Mamwe ankoye. A sha siano. Sabi dum sonti. And uncomfort tutia ni anotiswo. And so ni anotiswo no. Enfidie na ni adebe dum so ye ni nyina no. Ono an ekope bai. Enyo obi foforo an ekope bai. Nanso ono nso e bi oye ne boni bi. Enti na nkromfo anto ama no. Na boni kro ye enti nkromfo anto ama nene ye hwa ye hu se boy satetefo no no mo ye pickpocketer endefo no de o mo ye armed robber.
We'll leave it here. We'll hang the conversation here. KKD.
Yabregu.
Yabregu.
A nation where the elders are not planting trees for children to come and sit in the shade. They are cutting down the trees, but first and foremost, they are plucking all the fruits and storing them only for their family and children.
That analogy of the monkeys, though, it's a lot of food for thought. I'm going to share that on my social media today. There's a bit of a quote to it, and I'll be sharing that. But this has been our conversation with Kwesi Che Dakwa, the king, Nana KKD, who took the time to join us this morning on the AM show. We've been talking everything Ghana. And that last statement, though, about the president and what he sees, emptiness. You've left me with a lot to think about. But this is where we cap off this conversation at this point. But up next, we're going to be telling you about the GRA, the Ghana Revenue Authority's upfront payment by VAT registrable persons on imported taxable goods. And mind you, this includes vehicles at all ports of entry, 12.5% in addition. Where do we go from here? That conversation up next with Bernice Abubedu-Lansa. Do stay.
Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. My name is Bernice Abubedu-Lansa, and that was an interesting conversation my colleague Benjamin Akakpo had with KKD. Let's now talk about the Ghana Revenue Authority's upfront payment by VAT registrable persons on imported taxable goods, and these include vehicles, and it's at all ports of entry. This morning I've been joined by Emilia Assam. She's Assistant Commissioner at the GRA, and Alex Opoku, he's Chief Revenue Officer at the authority as well. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you here. So that story is actually captured on the front page of the Daily Graphic about non-VAT registered importers to pay 12.5% upfront. Now, let's break it down. Let me start with you, ma'am. So what is this upfront payment all about?
GRA is supposed to ensure that all persons who are registrable are registered and they pay the right tax. And this upfront payment is in place to ensure that all importers who import in commercial quantities register. This came up with the promulgation of the Act 1092 of the VAT Act. And this sets out to ensure that if you are registered and you import, you pay your taxes as is expected. But if you are not registered and you import goods in commercial quantities, then at the port of entry, you'll be expected to pay an additional 12.5% of the customs value of the goods you have imported. And this amount that you pay is recoverable when you file your return. You register and you file the returns that relates to the goods in question, and sometimes with goods that you've cleared even earlier on. When you do that, then you will have the right to recover that tax sorry, that amount that you paid,
the 12.5,
the 12.5, through the customs single window. That's all the main focus of this payment.
All right, and this is new, right? Or it's been in existence, this 12.5%, Mr. Opong. Is this a new introduction by GRA? Is this a new tax?
Yes, Benis, it's a new tax. Sorry, it's not a tax, it's a new payment.
Okay.
That's we term as a compliance tool.
Okay.
Just to compel those who import taxable goods to actually register, charge the VAT, and account to GRA. So that is what the tax is meant to, the payment is meant to do. We want to stress that it is not a new tax, but it's a new compliance tool or compliance measure to make sure that those who actually are supposed to register do register and charge the VAT.
Okay, so if you just joined us, this conversation is about a new compliance measure by the GRA to ensure that persons who import in commercial quantities, and that's the key word, and I'd just like for you to explain for the GRA what constitutes commercial quantities, because there are people who like to say, well, I want to import, say for example, I live outside the country, but I'm here for a few months. I want to import these brands of items, and because I'm going to stay here for 6 months, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to stay here for 6 months. I will want to import a certain quantity that may be considered commercial. What is commercial for the GRA?
What is commercial for the GRA, where you'll be expected to register, is when goods are valued, the custom value is more than 200,000 Ghana cedis. Okay. And again, it must be taxable in the sense that it is not exempt by law. And again, it is not for personal use.
Okay.
Sadly.
Right, so if I import 3 vehicles and they are at about 200,000 cedis cost, will that constitute a commercial quantity? I mean, and how do I prove to you that I'm going to use it for personal use, for example? Because there are people who own fleets of vehicles.
All right. When you import 3 vehicles, naturally we'll have to investigate. There you have to prove by submitting records to the GRA and apply to ask for waiver if they investigate and realize that the goods that you brought in, the 3 vehicles, should be considered as personal use, then they will give you that waiver so that you don't pay the upfront tax. Okay. But naturally, for one person to bring in 3 vehicles at a time is questionable, and definitely GRA will not allow you to have waiver for all the vehicles.
Right. Okay. So who are those who will be required to make these upfront payments, Mr. Opong?
All right. Those who are required to make the upfront payment, see, if you are an importer and you import taxable goods which are worth 200,000 cedis or more, then you know that if you are not registered for VAT, obviously you are going to pay the upfront VAT. So that's the main reason why we have introduced this kind of tax. I keep on mentioning tax, probably because I'm a taxman. Yes. But it is not a tax, it is a compliance measure. So that if you deal in taxable goods and you have not registered to charge VAT, this is to compel you. Okay. In fact, if currently you have goods coming, it's on the high seas, and you know that the value of those goods will be more than or equal to 200,000, you quickly have to go to GRA and register to charge the VAT because it is more than the threshold of 200,000. Some also import and keep them in warehouses. Yes. If you have goods in a warehouse, we will leave you. But if you are going to offload, if you are going to take from the warehouse to go and sell, and the value is more than 200,000, again, you need to make this upfront payment. And it is to compel you to register for VAT because the VAT registration threshold is 200,000 Ghana cedis.
Okay. So what category of imports are eligible for these upfront payments?
All right. First, we look at Also, goods that have been imported that are subject to auction. If you are going to auction goods, then naturally all taxes that should have been paid on it must be paid. Then we also look at those who have, he said it earlier on, those who have goods in bonded warehouses. If they want to sell those goods, then we'll have to let you pay the upfront payments.
Okay. So it means that there's no good, there are no goods exempted?
Unless, of course, it is exempted by law.
Okay.
These exemptions, for example, the VAT law has an exempt schedule. The Customs law also has exempt schedule. And we also have the Exemption Act that defines goods that are supposed to be exempted. So,
Okay.
for example, we can have, if it is not listed in these exempt schedules, then naturally it is taxable. And if you bring them in, then you are expected to pay the upfront tax if you are not registered.
Okay.
However, since these things are listed, there are exemptions and there are, in some cases, reliefs. For example, if you import goods that are not valued more than 200,000 Ghana cedis, then naturally you will not be expected to make the upfront payment.
Right.
And again, government institutions and agencies, they are also not expected. And we also have categories of goods or transactions that we classify as exempt. For example, the VAT law specifies that if you import, for example, machinery for maybe mining or agric, those ones are exempt. If you bring in said goods, then naturally you will not be expected to pay the upfront payment.
That is even if you're not registered?
Even if you are, you must be registered. For every person doing business in Ghana, you must register. However, I know our target is not necessarily those who are already registered. In as much as that will give us information to follow up on those who bring in goods and do not pay the right tax. The focus of this particular upfront payment is to ensure that those who are not registered are registered, they file their returns and make payments. So we have also transactions like from pre-zone companies who by law are not expected to pay taxes because they are not considered as resident entities. We also have goods that are brought in as transit goods or transshipment. Or we have goods that are brought in and they are under bond. If it's on a bond, for example, a manufacturing bond, then it's expected that you produce and after production, you make the payment. So for said goods, you will not be expected to pay the upfront, make the upfront payment.
Right. So, I mean, let's just be clear on this, that you make the upfront payment if you are not registered.
Yes.
So for all those who are importers who are registered, this is not something for you to worry about.
Exactly.
All right. So these upfront payments, are they recoverable?
Let me add to the category of persons
that are exempted.
We have another category of persons who are relieved. They are relieved by law. So when you look at the VAT Act, when you look at the state schedule, it talks about the president. If goods are imported in the name of the president for his office, then those goods will be exempted if even it's more than 200,000. Okay. Then we have diplomats and diplomatic institutions. They are also relieved from payment of the upfront payment. Okay. We also have privileged people like the diplomats, embassies, and also persons who are disabled. If some goods are coming from persons of this category, then they will not have to make the upfront payment.
Let me be clear. So if the goods, for example, if these are wheelchairs, or if they are items that are supposed to support or help people or persons with disability live a more comfortable life, you don't tax it? Or is it that if I'm a person with disability, no matter what I import, I'm exempt? I want to get it clear.
If goods are meant for disabled persons, that is where the exemption applies. However, you cannot just have it. You have to apply.
Okay.
You know, if you are expecting goods, imports of this category, then you have to make an application to the Commissioner of GRA. Okay. Then through the single window of ICOMS for you to be, the taxes to be waived.
Right. All right, Mr. Poku, how do we recover these upfront payments, and are they recoverable at all?
Yes, these upfront payments are recoverable. You know, as stated earlier, they are just a measure that's supposed to compel you to register. So once you register, then you qualify to recover that amount you pay, the 12.5% of the custom valued amount of the goods. So they are recoverable, and there are processes involved to recover.
Okay.
You need to apply
to
the Commissioner General electronically on the taxpayers portal. The taxpayers portal is known to these importers and the business people. So once you have made the imports and you have been charged this upfront VAT, upfront payment, you have to go and register. Once you do the registration, then you qualify to apply for your money to be paid back to you.
So if you don't register at all and you file your tax returns, you're still not going to get the upfront payment back?
You can only file your returns when you are a registered taxpayer. Right. Then there should be evidence that you have filed returns that covers those goods and you made all necessary payments and also comply with all other obligations that the Commissioner General expects from you.
Let me add on to the process. There are 3 outcomes. If you apply, you may be paid in full. That is, if Commissioner General is satisfied that you've met all the requirements, then your full amount will be recovered, paid to you. If you are owing some other taxes, as Madam said, then those taxes will be deducted. So you could be paid in part.
Okay.
Even though we withheld 12.5%, when we went through your records, you are owing, say, PAYE, pay as you earn, or income tax. Then we will recover that one from that amount and give you the difference. So you could be paid in full, you could be paid in part, and it could also be rejected.
Okay.
If in the wisdom of Commissioner General, your application is frivolous, you don't meet the requirement for recovery, then you will not be given. So these are the scenarios under which you can apply for the recovery of your upfront payment. But we need to stress that you must apply electronically for it.
Okay, so you're here this morning speaking to our audience who may be importers or who may know people who import. The story is also captured on the front page of the paper. I'm just wondering what the plan is. When are we implementing this? What is the level of engagement we hope to have with the importing group or importing community?
I think we started this before the law came into force, and it's an ongoing process. We've already engaged most trade organizations. You can just name them: freight forwarders, customs, importers and exporters.
Okay.
We've also engaged tax institutions. And just last week, we had a media engagement at Alisa Hotel. And what we are doing this morning is part of the process. And just as you said, it's in all media. And it's an ongoing process. We are scheduled to go out. And if you need more information, you can visit any of our taxpayer service center, where you have client service officers who are there to engage you and help you to register.
Wow. So we've spoken about why this is important, persons who will be required to pay to make upfront payments, and what they can do to recover the amount, which is that they must register. They must be VAT registered companies, and then they will make an application which will be sent to the Commissioner General via an electronic means. If the Commissioner General thinks that you deserve full payment, you will get it. If not, you will get a half payment, or it will be rejected based on the Commissioner General's discretion. Now, what does one need to register? So there's someone who's been imported and says, okay, so right now, how do I even go about this VAT registration? Because I don't want to make the upfront payments in the first place. So just run us through the process and how they can go about that, Mr. Poku.
Okay, VAT registration, first of all, it is a threshold matter that you should make a total sale of 200,000 cedis to qualify to register.
Monthly, annually?
Annually. Your total sale, volume of sales per year should be 200,000 cedis or more.
Okay.
And you should be dealing with taxable goods. That is, goods that are not exempt. that actually attract VAT. You must also have your Ghana card or TIN. These are requirements for registration. You should have a permanent place of business. You should be able to keep basic accounting records because you are going to collect money on behalf of the whole country. So you should be able to keep accounting records so that we can verify what you are collecting and what you are accounting for us. Okay. When you have all these requirements, you can walk into any of our taxpayer service centers. You will be set up. And in fact, this time, GRA has gone online.
Yeah.
Everything is being done online. Once you are set up, you will be introduced and registered for the tax type as VAT registered tax person. Then you now have the qualification to charge the VAT. Let me quickly add that if your volume of sales do not actually meet the 200,000, but per the clients you deal with, they are requiring you to issue them with VAT invoices, then that becomes a voluntary registration for you.
Okay.
So if you don't do that, you will not get a contract or they will not buy from you. So you can also apply for voluntary registration if you don't meet the target, the threshold, but your clients are demanding. Right. That is also one of the registration requirements.
The law also requires that you come along with your business registration documents. Apart from that, when we talk about 200,000 threshold, you must also look at the nature of your business. If within the quarter you make 50,000, then it should inform you are likely to achieve that threshold. So there's the need that you follow up and register. Registration is by law. You don't expect a GRA staff to come to you to register. You are supposed to walk in and register, because when you realize that you are registrable and you fail to register at the right time, then we can always register you and backdate your registration. So there's the need that you walk in and register.
Oh, this is very important information. So for all of you who are business people, the GRA stores are opened. They have centers across the country where you can walk in and get more information. They also have a very active website, so you can get there and get more information. Today we've been talking about the 12.5% upfront payment you have to make if you are someone who imports in commercial quantities and is not registered. This is the new law. So when does this come into effect, ma'am?
6th of June. We're only about a week away.
Okay.
So we are expecting that those who are expecting goods, who do not want to pay the upfront payment, make the upfront payment, should just walk into our office and get themselves and their businesses registered.
All right. So your final words, any of you has anything else to say?
Oh, GRA is now watchful, and we are doing everything to ensure that everyone does the right thing. We want uniformity in the tax environment. We want non-compliant taxpayers to also comply. So you cannot hide. You can only run, but to tell you frankly, we are now a step ahead of you. We have the information to always pursue those who are bringing you goods without paying anything, and we will get to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me also add that we want to entreat all institutions like Joy. When you are purchasing, please deal with VAT-registered traders or taxpayers. This morning, when I arrived here, I saw toiletries being offloaded, being packed. If you decide to buy from those who are already registered or those who are registered to charge VAT, it will compel those who are not registered to get the registration done, because they will not get people to buy their goods. And also, let me appeal to all Ghanaians. There are various supermarkets, big shops in town, elsewhere, that have registered but are not issuing the VAT invoices. If all customers will demand that, please, I need to get a VAT invoice for this television I've bought. If we all demand, I'm sure they will be accounting for the VAT properly. That's my passionate appeal to all Ghanaians and institutions.
Thank you so much. Emilia Assam, you heard her earlier. She's Assistant Commissioner at the GRA. And I've also been speaking to Alex Kojo Poku, who's made that passionate appeal. He's Chief Revenue Officer at the Ghana Revenue Authority. Hope you have some information to help you make some good decisions about your businesses this morning. We will be back to talk about Action Aid, because it's looking forward to doing something very, very interesting in the country, and I'll be joined by reps from there. They're looking forward to a just, fair and sustainable world in which everybody enjoys the right to a life of dignity and freedom from poverty and oppression. And also, we'll be hosting officials from the Nuclear Power Institute of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. Do stay. Time now for us to have that conversation with officials from the Nuclear Power Institute of Ghana. Yes, there's a Nuclear Power Institute right here in Ghana, and it's at the Atomic Energy Commission. Now, the Nuclear Power Institute is seeking to learn from Japan's vast wealth of knowledge on nuclear power. I've been joined by Professor Seth Deborah. He's director at the Nuclear Power Institute, and Dr. Stephen Yamwa. He's Executive Director of Nuclear Power Ghana. I'm so pleased to host the two of you, also because it helps people to know that there's a Nuclear Power Institute in Ghana. Prof, what are we all about?
So the Nuclear Power Institute is the technical institute that actually helps Ghana to develop a program. And this is done under the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, under the directive of the Director General, Professor Kojo Poku. So we help Ghana develop the program, and then you have a project in the Nuclear Power Ghana where they will now be the project developers. But the program and everything is done under the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission on behalf of the Ghana Nuclear Power Program Organization.
Doc, why is it important that we begin to look at even learning from Japan in this instance? Why is nuclear power important?
Thank you. So it's important we learn from Japan, not only Japan, but also other advanced countries that have used nuclear to transform their country and their economy. And Ghana is on the path of learning from these countries because the country has decided to embark on a nuclear power program to ensure that our electricity base is well secured, robust, to support the industry and the economy. And a nuclear power program is a long journey, and you need to learn from those that have passed the stage. So that is the main goal of Ghana, making sure that we have partners that can support us, share ideas, knowledge with us, so that we learn from them and not to commit certain mistakes that they did.
Doc, I'm happy you brought in the power angle to all of this, because when we hear, and power here means like power generation, because when we hear nuclear power, you're most likely thinking war, you're most likely thinking weapons. Tell us the expanse of nuclear power. What does it really entail?
So nuclear basically, I would say, forms the foundation of life. So you start from the sun, where you have radiations coming from the sun hitting us, making Earth habitable for us to be here. There are other uses in the hospital, in the industry. You go for x-rays all the time, and it's an aspect of nuclear. So the light spectrum of the electromagnetic light spectrum actually gives us an opportunity to explore whatever that we want to use nuclear for. So power is just an aspect of it. And just like other, I will call them tools, like cutlass, that is used for good can also be used for bad. And it's like that for every other industry. So nuclear can be used for good and for bad. For Ghana, but Ghana has signed on to what we call the peaceful uses of nuclear. That means we can only use nuclear for only peaceful purposes. And in this case, we are seeking to actually go ahead or go much further than we have done in the past, using it in industry, hospitals, and all those, but now using it for power generation. And that's what it's all about. That's why we are talking to the Japanese, we're talking to other countries, Russia, China, France, South Korea, the US, to make sure that we learn from them. And that's what Dr. Yamwa sought to actually expand on.
All right, Doc. There's an event happening, right? Prof, I'll come back to you to tell us a bit more, but I'm just interested in this conversation because who knows, we may be correcting misconceptions. Like I said, when you talk about nuclear power, because most of the time you're hearing Russia, you just mentioned, even Japan, and all these other countries. It's almost as if these countries flex their nuclear powers when it comes to the issue of conflict and who has more, who is stronger in that regard. So here in Ghana, he just said we have signed on to the peaceful uses of nuclear power. How do you see us implementing the plan? What should our focus be, even as we seek to use nuclear in the positive sense of it?
Yes, so there's already a plan that we're following. The focus is clearly defined. We are in for peaceful purpose for electricity generation. Ghana is already applying nuclear technology in all fields, with the exception of for power generation, and that is where we're moving on to. As I said, there's already a plan. We have a 3-phase program that we are following, which we have concluded phase 1, and at the end of phase 1, we put a report together to detail the status of infrastructure in the country, and what has to be done and how to go about it, and that is what we are embarking on in phase 2. Making sure that we set the infrastructures well in place before we start construction. And one of such infrastructure is, for example, stakeholder engagement, which is the main reason for the program coming. Also issues of siting, issues of technology, and all of that. So we're currently in phase 2, making sure that all the key infrastructures are in place.
Okay.
To be able to enable us go to the next phase, which is the construction phase. And that will then usher us into the operation, and the rest will follow. So, to sum it up, the focus is for peaceful purposes for electricity generation, and we are following the International Atomic Energy Agency milestone approach for implementing a nuclear power program. And they have put that program in place, taking lessons learned from the advanced countries who have done it before. And that is what all newcomer countries are following.
Prof, tell us about tomorrow's program. Who is speaking? What is the purpose? What do we hope to achieve at the end of it?
So tomorrow's program is an interesting one. It's one of the few ones that's initiating the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission into its 60th anniversary. So we've had some programs before, but not nuclear specific, but in agric and in health. But this time it's nuclear. So this time we've invited 5 experts, nuclear experts, government experts from Japan. The reason why Japan is very simple. Japan has gone through the adverse use of nuclear and the positive use of nuclear, and has suffered some natural disasters that actually led to some release of radiation. But they are going back to nuclear. And as Ghana, we want to know why they are going back to nuclear. It's very important we do that. At the end of the day, we expect to actually get some feedback from the institutions that we invited. We invited over 200 people to be there. People will also be online, not just in Ghana, but also in Africa and parts of Europe. And we want to actually learn from them what they've done right, what they've done wrong, and how we should actually order our steps moving forward as a country. I'll be speaking there. My colleague, Dr. Yamwa, would be there. We've invited the ministers of energy, ministers or Minister of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation to also be there. The Japanese ambassador will be there. He has confirmed we have the American ambassador who will also be there. The 5 experts will also be speaking to also give their experiences to make sure that we do the right thing.
And so how do we follow? Is this an open program for anybody who's interested in understanding nuclear, or we can follow online? Exactly how do we participate?
So you need to first register, because we need to keep track of people and make sure that we are building on their understanding. So you just have to register. You go onto any of your social media handles. On Facebook, we are there as Nuclear Power, Ghana Nuclear Power Agenda. On LinkedIn, we are also there as Ghana Nuclear Power Agenda. On Twitter, we are at GNPPO over there. You can also go to our website, the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission website. You will locate a link, that's the Nuclear Power Institute link. You go there, you can also register. And the registration link will be sent to you, and you can follow online.
All right, so the names to look out for on Facebook and LinkedIn, Ghana Nuclear Power Agenda. I think that's easier to stick on the mind. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul, for joining me. We will be there tomorrow, and we wish you all the best. You heard Professor Stephen Debra. He's director of the Nuclear Power Institute, and Dr. Stephen Niamo, executive director of the Nuclear Power Ghana. And they were here this morning to talk to us about a very important conversation we need to start having about nuclear power in Ghana and learning from the Japanese experience. And Prof highlighted how Japan has transitioned from the negative use of nuclear and has made some great strides in the positive use of it. And that disaster that hit them some years ago. And so there's a lot of learning to do. I hope that you can all come along as we hope to make Ghana a big name when it comes to nuclear power, obviously in the positive sense. Well, when I come back, I'll be letting you in on how ActionAid is looking forward to a just, fair and sustainable world in which everybody enjoys the right to a life of dignity, freedom from poverty and oppression. Do stay. Still the AM show with me, Bernice Abubedu-Lansa. ActionAid is here, and they're here to tell you why they're looking forward to a just, fair, and sustainable world in which everybody, no one left behind, everybody enjoys the right to a life of dignity, freedom from poverty and oppression. Esther Ohenewa Brown is here with me. She is with ActionAid, and she will be telling us more about what they're doing. Hello, Esther. Great to have you.
Hi, Bernice.
All right. She's here with her colleague. I'll be letting you in on... he's Ayuba Abubakar. Esther is comms manager with ActionAid Ghana. And Ayuba is project manager at ActionAid Ghana.
Yes.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you
to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell me about this vision ActionAid has. Look, I'm reading it, and I'm thinking to myself, that's such a bold statement to make. It's such a daring aspiration to have. Yeah. Why does ActionAid think this is even possible in the first place?
Well, thank you, Venice. Good morning to your viewers. So ActionAid has been working in Ghana since 1990, actually. We are a social justice organization with focus on women's rights. And we are very unapologetic about it. We're biased towards women. Because we believe that when women are supported, the general community will receive that level of support. And so over the years, we have been working to support social justice. And you talk about a just, fair. It is also because now there is a lot of conversation around climate justice. We move from climate change to climate justice, because when you look at a lot of the things that are happening around the world, specifically in Ghana, there are a lot of people who are recording losses and damage around the impact of climate change. And so we are looking at how can we deliver just, fair social justice to people. We do this by working with communities to be able to get them to be part of the development journey. We are not an organization that goes into a community and dump development on them. We look at how they can participate in the whole process to be able to sustain that particular development agenda that we're pushing for. So basically, that's what ActionAid has been doing since 1990, so over 35 years.
Oh, that's a long time. Yeah. So quite recently, you've been working on the Northern Ghana Integrated Development Project. and that's focusing on strengthening resilient livelihoods, contribute to secure climate justice, and address the root causes of violence against women and girls, reduce unpaid care work, that one, and promote decent work respectively. As part of the project, ActionAid is conducting immediate training on decent work practices and social protection within the agri value chain. So Ayuba, tell us more about the Northern Ghana Integrated Development Project, and you will be telling us what decent work and social work is all about.
Okay, thank you very much. So the Northern Ghana Integrated Development Project is a 4-year project funded by the EU. We are in the last month of the implementation of the project. It actually started in 2019. And then we have worked with districts and at all levels to actually change the lives of smallholder farmers. And so basically the project seeks to actually contribute to reducing rural poverty. And as you have said, through actually engaging smallholder farmers to build their capacity around agroecology, to make them more resilient. And so that's what we have been doing. And we are working with 2 partners, Urbanet and 3Aid. So over the years, we have worked with civil society organizations at the community level to build their capacity to be able to support the smallholder farmers. And then we have moved on to train the smallholder farmers on agroecology, supported them with demo farms, and now they have imbibed the idea of actually using organic fertilizers and other local inputs in production. And it's helping them. They are increasing yields. We have also worked with young people to build their capacity in some livelihood areas. Honey production, this is climate friendly, and shea butter production, nutritional gardening, and a lot of people are benefiting from this. And other components of the project has to do with, like you have said, actually making sure that the smallholder farmers get the needed social protection and also benefit from decent work. And we have been doing this. We have helped them to create what we call village savings and loans associations, and they are making a lot of savings and helping themselves. Yes, from this. Yes. So this training you have talked about, which my colleague will talk more about, we want to see how we, garner support to campaign for government to integrate decent work principles into the agriculture sector, because these smallholder farmers we are working with are mostly, into agric. And how do they benefit from the work they are doing? And so we need government support to actually help this happen.
I know, so decent work, what does that mean? What's your social protection campaign and decent work campaign all about?
All right, so when we talk about decent work, it's an agenda that the International Labour Organization has been pushing, and of course organizations like ActionAid, because we are also, again, women focus and youth focus. We are also looking at how can we support the communities that we work with to be able to engage in decent work practices. We conducted a research and observed that within the agriculture value chain, a lot of the smallholder farmers who work, maybe for those who have been employed by agribusinesses, they are unable to receive the right compensation that they deserve. They are unable to have social protection, social security. So for instance, if they fall sick at some point and they are unable to work for the rest of their life, there is nothing for the family to depend on. We also observe that because these people work with these agribusinesses and use some level of chemicals in the scope of their work, they don't have any protection. And so when it comes to decent work, we're looking at how can people be well compensated for the work that you're doing? How can they receive the level of social protection that they need to be able to have a decent livelihood? And so when we conducted that research, we observed that these were some of the challenges associated with the delivery of work with those smallholder farmers within the agriculture value chain. In terms of the social protection, we know that LEAP is there. Government has some level of social protection, and according to the social protection policy of Ghana, the vulnerable people in society are the ones supposed to be assessing these social protection schemes. Unfortunately, when we conducted the research again, we observed that the people who are politically connected in the communities, they are the ones assessing these social protection schemes. And so then the question is, how can we as a nation support or run an impact assessment of who are the beneficiaries of the social protection schemes, so that at the end of the day, we know that in community A, for instance, if I go to Bimbila, I know that these are the people I'm supposed to be targeting. Are we doing the targeting right? And so we're running a campaign, and we're looking at how can we ensure that we raise the awareness on these issues, because social protection, whether we like it or not, are supposed to be for the very vulnerable in society. But because of the manner in which some of these schemes are rolled out, for instance, in some of the communities, they will tell you that the NHIS, when they go to the communities, the hospitals, the clinics, they don't mind them. Even to renew it is a problem. And these are very vulnerable people in society. So if the government's schemes that are supposed to support them are unable to support them in a manner that would help them to live a decent life, then it becomes a problem. Right. One of the issues we also observed was that a lot of the time when there is flooding, for instance, the communities that are flood prone, you realize that anytime there is this issue, NADMO will go in, give them groceries, give them relief items. But the farmers who are at the receiving end of this level of disasters, they're unable to go back, because some of them even go for loans to support the planting of the crops that they want to grow. And so if you give them relief items, how are they able to go back to farming? It doesn't solve the problem. And so one of the things we're advocating for is for us to establish a disaster relief fund, so that, and everybody can support in this fund. We have donor communities who are willing to support smallholder farmers. And I'm happy that recently, during the African Union Day, the president was talking about food security. If you look at Ghana, a lot of the people who produce our food is the smallholder farmers. And we can't neglect them. We can't neglect them because we want to industrialize agriculture, because these are the people we will not want to leave behind. And so even though we want to industrialize agriculture, how can we look at what are some of the local solutions that can support these very vulnerable people to be able to produce the food you and I will go to the markets, find, and be able to bring back into our homes. And so we are advocating for us to establish that disaster relief fund to support these smallholder farmers. In terms of the training, we're running the training because the media is part of what we do.
Right.
You cannot, ActionAid does not see the media as a tool to cover our stories, and that's the end. We have a very good relationship with the media. We know that campaigns cannot be successful if the media does not understand what the goal is. And before you even start any campaign, you need to be able to provide a basis, evidence, for people to know that, okay, these are the issues we have unraveled on the ground, and this is what we want you to run with. And because of that, you will need people to understand the perspective. I'm probably talking about smallholder farmers, decent work, social protection. Not everybody understands these things. And so if you want the media to be able to support the campaign, you would therefore need them to understand what are the issues you have unraveled through your researches, what are the issues on the ground, what are the key advocacy messages that you want government, what are the policy directions that you want government to implement. For instance, we know that it's very difficult, but we're looking at how can government, as part of, let's say, the district roadmaps towards decent work, how can we roll that in? So, for instance, if the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is running any programs for the planting for food and jobs, which I know they are reviewing some of the areas of that particular policy, how can you ensure that those within the value chain are embedding decent work principles? So if you are employing smallholder farmers, how can you ensure that these smallholder farmers, their decent work and social protection are factored into the whole process?
All right. So Ayuba, I'd like for you to tell us what to expect at the training, who can participate, when it's happening, where it's happening, basically everything about the training.
Yes, thank you very much. So the training is happening today and tomorrow at the Mansfield Grand Hotel. Yes, so we expect all caliber of media personnel to be part of this. And so, presenters, reporters, and then whoever is in the media space, we expect everybody to be part, because you all play a role in actually supporting in our campaigns. And so, yes, these are the category of people we are expecting. Yes, and we have seasoned trainers who are going to engage with them, and then you will love it. So those who are invited from here, we welcome them. They should come, and then we have a lovely training.
Right. Are you hoping to extend this beyond Accra? Because I'm thinking about...
Yes.
But the plan is for other journalists in different parts.
Yeah. So actually we started in the north.
Okay.
We did in northern region, in Tamale. Then we went to Wa. We went to Bolga, and then we are coming to Accra. Yes. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you so much. You had Ayuba Abukari. He is Project Manager, ActionAid Ghana. And earlier, Esther Ohinewa Brown, Communications and Public Relations Manager at ActionAid Ghana. You want to follow ActionAid on social media as ActionAid Ghana?
Yes, ActionAid Ghana.
Right,
You can visit our website to have more information as well.
Exactly. Well, that'll be it for this edition of the AM show. Thank you so much for your company. Benjamin and I are really blessed that you can make time to join us every morning, and we don't take it for granted at all. Before I go, let me say happy 10th birthday to Jaden Kweku Api to Ankara of Red Church School. Happy birthday to you. This is to wish you God's blessings and favor on this joyous occasion from the entire family, and obviously from us here at Joy News. Do take care. Up next is News Desk. Thanks again for your company. We're back again tomorrow with the AM show. Do stay.